Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is, and welcome back. We have an insurrection to talk about brewing all over California and perhaps other parts of the country, and we're very glad to have you here so we can unpack all of this together. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up. Let me give you a quick preview, and then we'll zoom in for further details. But we got a bunch of tabs here and a bunch of breaking news, like a fire hose every 5 minutes or something new happening. But what we got, the latest is we got some Marines being mobilized to get out there and to quell some of these protests, and lots of talk about the Insurrection Act of 1807 coming back up. Because remember, back during the Rodney King era, they did send the Marines out there to quell that problem, and this thing might be much worse than that. So we're going to go through this. I got a bunch of clips here. You can see some of the carnage. And then we'll just parse through what CNN said about it, because they're furious that Trump is saying that this is an insurrection. They said only we can call things that you do an insurrection. And that wasn't even an insurrection. Those were American citizens who were upset about a rigged election and invited it into the Capitol building by our corrupt government. But the point is, we're going to go through this today. We got a bunch of stuff on the Insurrection Act. We'll talk about it. We got Tom Cotton, a senator, also came out and was opining on this, saying this might be the next step if things continue to brew. And we just got a bunch of stuff on that topic. Then we'll turn our attention to this Newsom battle, because this is capturing a lot of attention. Gavin Newsom came out and did this little weird interview where he's like, arrest me. Please arrest me. No one's paying attention to me. No one likes me. My whole state is ruined. I could use any help with any political attention that you can give me. So just put the handcuffs on me already, please. All right, Gavin. We can all see what you're doing here. But Trump commented on it. He's like, yeah, arrest him. What do I care? Sure, throw him away. Gavin's fundraising on it. Trump had a bunch of comments about it. They're still destroying LAPD's houses, building, office building. We got a ton of clips here from Karen Bass and others. And even now, Gavin Newsom is suing President Trump. Trump doesn't really give a crap. So we have his reaction to that all coming up. Then I want to talk about this situation where we have to recognize, in my opinion, that this is way beyond just a little bit of a riot, a little bit of a protest. These are just individuals who are here just, voicing their First Amendment freedom and concerns about dictatorial abuse, whatever. What we have here is an insurrection. It's an invasion, and it is a battle that has been a long time brewing, and we're starting to see it manifest, because we've got this woman, Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, so-called, and she's coming out saying that they're going to mobilize if they don't get their way on remittances, which is money from the United States back to Mexico. So she's looking at her, she's doing all, so she's getting ready for that. And the Daily Mail is saying that she is calling the people who are torching our country, like this little, are calling them heroes. What? In response to the violent riots. Now, this is just the beginning of, I think, what has been brewing for quite a long time. We got some photos of these maniacs who are planting their flags in our territories. And if you're familiar with some of these conversations, you may understand this term called the Reconquista, which is Mexico's sort of cultural movement to reconquer what they claim to be is their stolen lands. And this is happening right now. It's not just, oh, we're just upset and just going to protest ICE for a little bit. No, this is it. And they're even talking about it. And remember, back in 1915, they planned another insurrection previously. They wanted to seize Arizona, New Mexico, and California. So this is just point 2.0. And this little amigo here is explaining this is their plan. He's out there today. Willie Nelson is explaining it. He says, yeah, this is our land. You guys stole it from us. So we're just retaking it back. So just eat it, America. We got a bunch of Democrats. They're like, well, don't be bigoted. Don't be bigoted to them if they're coming here to steal your land away from you and are openly admitting it on camera. Don't be a racist, Rob. All right, so we're not at all. We're just commenting on foreign invaders who are openly saying that they're going to be stealing our land, just to be clear. So we got that. We also had this woman in Minnesota who is apparently an illegal alien, who is a state representative, who is an illegal alien state representative. So they're governing us too. All right, in Minnesota. Maybe they like that there. But she just admitted it. People are seeing ICE and Tom Holman. Hello. She just admitted. So we'll go through that. And we'll look into who's funding a lot of these things. We've got this, Mexican flag becoming a potent LA protest symbol. No, it's a symbol of conquest. Shout out to our friend Amuse. And then we'll see if we got time. I think we'll get to it. We got this Kilmar update because they're doubling down, the DOJ rather, on fighting to keep this dude in custody, right? This is the next battle. Can Kilmar get out of custody? We do not want that to happen. And currently, I think he's still got, I don't know if he's got ACLU lawyers on his criminal case or not, but the DOJ dropped this one in as well. So I have a little bit of some legal updates that we'll get to. And it's going to be just a heck of a show. And so if there's anything else that pops up throughout the stream, thanks for alerting me to it, because we know that the news is popping right now. And I'm keeping my eye on some of the cables as well. But all right, so my friends, before we get into the news and the business of the day, let's talk about some money, because many people are feeling it. Costs going up, markets shifting, everything's a little bit twirly right now. Mortgages, groceries, gas prices. And so if you're a homeowner, you may have thought, should I call American Financing to refinance and pay off this credit card debt? And then you may second guess yourself because of that low mortgage rate you currently have. But look, that low rate, it may not actually be saving you any money if you're drowning in credit card interest at 25% or more. And that's the math nobody wants to face. But it's costing, or could be costing you, a lot of money, even thousands. Now, the fact is, if you're only making minimum payments, that debt could follow you for years. That's why people are calling American Finance, because they're saving customers an average of $800 a month by using their equity to break free from their credit card debt. And so why not see what's possible? They have no upfront fees, no pressure, cost you nothing to find out what you could save every month if you work with them. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. And so call American Financing. Number is down in the description below. It's 866-887-1201. That's 866-887-1201. AmericanFinancing.net/Robert if you want to check it out online. And shout out to American Financing for sponsoring today's show. All right, so we got business now to attend to, my friends. And so let's get right to it, because here is the latest. We've got this story percolating here. The media very upset with President Trump for calling the riots an insurrection in California. They say only we can declare you to be an insurrectionist, even though what we have in this instance is certainly much more analogous to an insurrection than anything they claimed was previously. And so in this clip, we've got CNN having a hissy fit in response to Trump's statement that we'll listen to in a second. But the latest on this is the Marines are on their way out to California. So CNN reporting this, about 700 Marines being mobilized in response to the protests. And we don't know exactly in what capacity they will be deployed, but the full Marine battalion is on the way, marks a significant escalation, says CNN. U.S. Northern Command said Sunday that 500 Marines from the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, were put on to prepare to deploy orders. But one of the people said on Monday that the entire battalion was prepared to deploy and has in fact been mobilized. One of the people familiar with the Marine mobilization said they'll be augmenting the Guard presence on the ground. Over 2,000 members of the California National Guard also been activated by the president, but only about 300 have been deployed to the streets of LA so far. Those initial 300 people were on routine National Guard drill weekend when they were mobilized, which is why they were able to arrive so quickly. But it can take up to 72 hours for other guardsmen to be mobilized, and the Marines are expected to bolster some of the Guard members who have been deployed to LA over the last few days. They said, well, the Marines are stressed. The Marines were being deployed only to augment the forces already there. They still say Marines on the streets of America can raise some eyebrows, and they're saying this is Trump being a dictator. Now, while the Marines' tasks have not been specified publicly, they could include assignments like crowd control, establishing perimeter security, and they're still figuring it out. Lawyers within the DOD are still finalizing the language about what's going to be happening here with these Marines, but likely going to mirror the military's standing rules of the use of force. So while the Marines are on their way, Trump commented on this today, and he was making his way back to the White House from the UFC event. And here is what he said when asked about this via the media.
What does your intel tell you about these people causing all the problems? Are they people ICE is trying to deport, or are they professional agitators?
The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
built the Insurrection Act?
Insurrectionists. Here's Dana Jake Tapper Bash, who is just as big a liar as he is, in my opinion, who's going to finger point on this one. Insurrectionist? You don't get to call people that, only we do.
It's like you queued him up, Priscilla. That word he used, they're insurrectionists. That I can't imagine that was an accident.
Of course not.
Because it seems as though that is the place that the White House is trying to get. And for the president, it's icing on the cake that he can do it in the state of California. Because on a whole host of issues, he has had California, Gavin Newsom in particular, in his sights. The question he was asked was about Newsom daring Tom Holman to come and arrest him.
We'll get to that later, but they are, of course, recognizing this actually is an insurrection, and their hystericism over the last 4 years about January 6th, the rigged operation conducted by our own government, was not an insurrection. They labeled it an insurrection, never charged anybody with insurrection, didn't have to deploy the Marines or invoke the Insurrection Act at all. Nothing like that happened. These were U.S. citizens, by the way, who were there, and many of them tapped on the shoulder and invited in. So the point is, they are now witnessing an actual insurrection and having a hard time reconciling it. They had a whole litany of people saying it was mostly peaceful and just deal with it. But the reality is it was pretty much an insurrection. You have a bunch of people waving their foreign flags around, taking over your streets and torching your neighborhoods, right? That's in LA, our neighborhoods and our streets. And a big part of me, when you say, well, it's California. So if they want to indulge in this behavior, if they want to allow people to come in and just host them, give them every single benefit, roll out the red carpet for illegal aliens, then they can deal with the consequences of it and just let it burn, essentially, right? Let the city, they can deal with their own consequences, leave it alone, and let the state just smolder into the dustbin of history. But we don't want to do that. This is our country. This is our state. We should have a great California that is filled and brimming with American values and American life like it used to. Not this garbage that is being excused by the Democratic Party. Now, here was another scene from our friend Andy No, aka Andy NGO, who says, far left open border rioters severely damaged police vehicles as well and other cars at their insurrection in Los Angeles. They hurled rocks, concrete chunks, Molotov cocktails, and other projectile weapons as well. And here's the scene. And there are cops running around under that bridge. And a lot of this footage is actually pretty sanitized right now. But there's the fire bombs going off, and they're lighting these cars on fire. And they're throwing stuff on the cops who were in those vehicles, who had to scatter because they were getting hit in the head with stuff from the bridge. Totally ridiculous. Here's another angle of more Waymos. These cost, they say, from Peter, about $200K. So millions of dollars in damage that was caused. And what are these flags doing out there? Mexican flags from Mexico, not immigrants in America here for a better life. They're saying, no, this is our land and we're taking it back. So here's another one. This communist is running around here, and the police were also on the freeway. You see more Mexican flags floating around and destruction and madness all over the place. So while that's all happening, Homeland is also confirming that we've got some pretty heinous illegal aliens who are running around behind the scenes having a field day in this madness, explaining that Homeland confirms to Fox News that a Vietnamese illegal alien ICE arrested in the LA operation yesterday is in fact a convicted murderer and a gang member. This dude right here, convicted murderer and gang member running around. He shot up a high school graduation party in San Marino in 1994, eliminating 2 teenagers and injuring 7 others as part of after a party, AK-47s and more. Says this cold-blooded killer who is who the rioters are trying to protect. Oh, that's what they arrested. He wasn't out on the streets, but they went to go get him, right? And all these people are freaking out. They're torching all the cars because they arrested this dude, 1994 murderer, killed 2 teenagers, injured 7 people, just blasted a whole party. They deported him out of the country. They're losing their minds. How dare you? This is our constituency. These are our people. You can't come after them. And so Tom Cotton and Trump, of course, a lot of people talking about invoking the Insurrection Act and what that means exactly. Here's a little snippet from Wikipedia. It says the Insurrection Act, 1807, we rewind the clock, empowers the President of the United States to nationally deploy the U.S. military and to federalize the National Guard units of the individual states in specific circumstances, such as the suppression of civil disorder, of insurrection, and of armed rebellion against the federal government of the United States, which sounds pretty dang appropriate right now. Now, the Insurrection Act provides a statutory exception to the Posse Comitatus Act that says you can't have the military on U.S. streets. Now, after invoking or before exercising the powers, the law would require President Trump to issue a proclamation. He would have to formally order the dispersion and go through some other procedures, but it empowers the president to call into service the armed forces, to address an insurrection, and the question would be, of course, whether Trump invokes it. Now, prior use, the Insurrection Act has been invoked many times. So when you hear CNN going bananas, think about this. Invoked many times, including in the Rodney King situation, where the riots went on for quite a while. And during that time, it was invoked. The Insurrection Act many times says Presidents Eisenhower and Kennedy invoked it to enforce court order desegregation in the aftermath of Hugo in '89 and in the 1992 LA riots. 2006, Bush considered intervening in the state in Katrina. Trump warned back during George Floyd he would do it, but didn't. And then this year, 2025, Trump signed an executive order requiring Homeland and Pete within 90 days to submit a report about conditions at the southern border. Is this an insurrection that justifies Trump calling out the military to enforce the law? And we know they're getting ready on standby, but mostly this feels like it's a National Guard operation first and foremost. Now, here was Tom Cotton talking about this, asked on with Fox News, and Tom Cotton obviously sits on some pretty important committees there in the Senate. Here's what he had to say about all this.
And for more on this, Senator Tom Cotton is chairman of the Intelligence Committee. Great to have you here. A fellow senator of yours, but a Democrat, Cory Booker, thinks that this is too much. Watch.
For the president to do this when it wasn't requested, breaking with generations of tradition, is only going to incite the situation and make things worse. The reality is we see peaceful protests launching in Los Angeles. And again, any violence against police officers should not be accepted. Local authorities can handle that. But remember, a lot of these peaceful protests are being generated because the president of the United States is sowing chaos and confusion.
Now, before I get your take on this, we just remembered on June 3rd, 2020, you wrote an op-ed in the New York Times that caused a little controversy, if you might recall. Tom Cotton, send in the troops. The nation must restore order. The military stands ready. And now here we are again, sir.
Yeah, Dana, what we can't allow in this country is lawless violence against innocent civilians, against property, against federal personnel and federal facilities. I'm not sure what pictures and video Cory Booker saw from Los Angeles, calling it peaceful protests. What I saw was uncontrolled rioting. You had cars being set on fire, law enforcement being pelted with bricks and cement and frozen water bottles. You had people blocking not just city streets, but major highways, and attacks on both local and federal law enforcement. We simply can't allow that. Mm-hmm. We always hope that the local police are able to control the situation. Sometimes Democratic politicians, like the Democratic mayor in Los Angeles, may not let them control it. But if not, we have a responsibility to protect innocent lives and property in this country. That's what President Trump has said. That's why he called out the National Guard and why he stands ready, if necessary, to use active duty troops under the authority of the Insurrection Act to put an end to this violence. That's why we in Congress are acting as well. I'm introducing legislation that will increase penalties for rioters or those who attack law enforcement, that would make it a deportable offense to engage in such crimes. And our big plan, not just to prevent the largest tax increase in history, but to provide ICE and immigration authorities with the money and the resources they need to continue to secure our border and to deport violent, illegal criminals.
Sir, it seems much of the Democratic reaction, I mean, the words sometimes are almost the same. You just heard Cory Booker.
Yeah, that's for sure, because they all get text messages in their little group chat. Like, all right, morons, listen. This is Obama here. Okay, just say this, idiots. and Cory Booker and then Timu Obama, Hakeem Jeffries were like, oh yeah, peaceful protest. And then they just do it.
Talk about chaos and confusion and blame it on Donald Trump. Kamala Harris made a rare public statement. She said deploying the National Guard is a dangerous escalation meant to provoke chaos. There's that word again. In addition to recent ICE raids in Southern California across the country, it's part of the Trump administration's cruel, calculated agenda to spread panic and division. There's the phrase again. What happens now? If it's Los Angeles today, soon it'll be Chicago, maybe New York. What are we in for nationally, do you think?
Well, Bill, the Los Angeles Police Department chief has said his officers are overwhelmed. If that's the case, the Democratic mayor and governor of California need to step in and use the National Guard and other law enforcement to help the LAPD restore order. But Kamala Harris talks about danger and chaos. That's what she and Joe Biden presided over for 4 years when we had a slow motion invasion of this country. In the election last year, the American people voted to secure our border and to deport illegal aliens, especially violent criminals of the kind that were apprehended in California late last week. It's not provocative to enforce federal law. It's not provocative to do what President Trump campaigned on. What's provocative is to have all of these illegal aliens setting cars on fire while they wave the flags of foreign countries and now being joined by professional agitators from Antifa or pro-Hamas sympathizers. That has to stop. President Trump is committed that it's going to stop today. If Democratic mayors and governors can't do it, then the federal government will have to.
Could you answer a question on the law? Because here's a little bit from a Washington Post article saying that Trump charged new territory by bypassing Newsom to deploy National Guard. Legal experts question the president's response to unrest in L.A., saying he appears to be laying groundwork for more expansive use of the military to suppress dissent. Is the law clear here on the president's side?
The law is entirely clear. The National Guard, they're traditionally operating under governor's authorities, can be federalized and can be used by the president to restore basic order and to enforce federal law. That's what Dwight Eisenhower did in my state in the 1950s when a Democratic governor refused to integrate Little Rock Central. Then the Insurrection Act is also a backstop to the National Guard to provide the president for use of active duty troops. President Trump has said we're not there yet, but he does stand by ready to do so if necessary. That's what I said we should do in 2020 as well. We need to have our authorities ready if local police are not allowed or are unable to restore basic law and order to protect innocent civilians, property, and especially to enforce federal law.
Be interesting to find out who's holding those Mexican flags. Maybe in time we will. Seems like we're in for a long, hot summer. We'll see where it goes from here. Senator, thank you for your time.
Illegal Mexicans are holding those flags. That's who's holding them. They are part of an invasion force. And if they're not illegal Mexicans, then they're Americans who are co-conspiring for the cause of the invasion. That's what a flag is. It's a symbol, and we've been planting them in conquest for our entire existence as a species. So we know what it means, and we know what they're doing. Now, here is another interesting question. Talking about reciprocity between the states. And I saw this flagged by a bunch of people on X. You can repost Grok conversations. And so this is just an AI answer, but it looks pretty credible to me because it's citing a bunch of sources saying, question, does Mexico allow foreigners to protest politically? So if you're an American and you go down to Mexico and you say, you know, we think that your country's corrupt as hell because you're run by drug cartels, and I want to protest and the drug cartels. Probably get killed because it's Mexico and, you know, that's who's in charge. But if you're not killed, they'll arrest you. In fact, that's happened. Answer, no, Mexico does not allow foreigners to participate in political protests. What? According to Article 33 of the Mexican Constitution, foreigners are prohibited from engaging in political activities, including demonstrations, as this is considered interference in national affairs. Participation can lead to detention and deportation. For example, in 2002, American students were deported for joining a peaceful protest in Mexico City. Peaceful. I'm sure. I don't know if they were torching Waymos back down there in 2002. I don't think they had Waymos back then. But I don't think they were torching cars or anything. And they still got deported. The U.S. Embassy also advises citizens to avoid these activities due to legal consequences. So it'd be a nice reciprocity to just show them the same respect and say, get out and deport all of them. Now, President Trump came out with this new message. He says, if they spit, then we hit. Not playing around from the president.
What's the bar for sending Marines to
The bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order. We're going to be watching it very closely. And when they spit at people, you know, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit and worse. You know what they throw at them, right?
Yeah, and Ed Martin got loogied by that crazy woman in D.C. who then yanked her dog. He had to face assault by these people. And now it's like on full display, and it's much worse than just spitting. They're also burning and torching.
And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them,
Nailed it.
nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military, which they do as a common thing. They get up to them this far away, and then they start spitting in their face. That happens, they get hit very hard.
Yeah, good, because that's assault. That's physical contact, and it can actually be very dangerous, right? You don't know what's in these people's saliva. Oh my gosh. They're poly relationships. They've changed gender 45 times. The heck's going on in there? They spit on your face, you start to mutate into some sort of...
You're not planning to invoke that Insurrection Act. You still plan to send troops?
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden and his auto pen.
Not going to happen. So repercussions will be coming. Hopefully they don't have to. And the administration is able to quell this with the current forces because the people are familiar with what's coming and peace takes over. But if that doesn't happen and the military has to come in, hopefully they round up every single illegal alien in one fell swoop and deport all of them immediately. Now, we've got that happening there. So we've also got some reaction from the president towards Gavin Newsom. Trump unloads on Gavin Newsom, truth after truth, explaining how Newsom is terrible and responsible for a lot of this. Not only has he wrecked California's economics and standing in the world stage, they're in a major deficit, and they take, I think, 20 years to build a bathroom in San Francisco. It's bizarre. Can't build a train, can't really do much of anything, but are still latching on to the afterglow of a much better era and better generation. But now Gavin is very upset with President Trump. And so he comes out and he's so desperate for meaning and purpose. He has very little of it since his entire life is a charade. But he is now saying, you know, why don't you come and arrest me? Basically begging for Trump to arrest him, for Tom Holman to come and arrest him so that he can have some relevance once again, make him the centerpiece of attention, and then he can do something with his life. But Trump says, look, not going to happen, okay? We made a great decision in sending the National Guard to deal with the violent, instigated riots in California. We're not backing down from this. If we had not done so, LA would have been completely obliterated, Gavin. The very incompetent governor called Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass, in quotes, Mayor, should be saying, thank you, President Trump. You are so wonderful. We would be nothing without you, sir. Instead, they choose to lie to the people of California and America by saying that we weren't needed and that these are, quote, peaceful protests. What? Just one look at the pictures and the videos of the violence and the destruction tells you all you have to know. We will always do what is needed to keep our citizens safe so we can together make America great again. And we've got this supercut from Tom S. Elliott that is exactly this, right? Trump mentions that these people say it is all peaceful and non-violent. And we got our friend Tom S. Elliott, supercut on X at Tom S. Elliott. He is someone who assembles these over for Grabian. Says from corporate media, you know, these murderous riots are actually mostly peaceful. So here was the lecture from Gavin Newsom and Mayor Bass in turn.
The LA County Police say that they have it under control. Carrying a flag is not illegal, as you know. What did happen in 1992 was so different from what we're seeing now. I mean, that was a real riot.
Video after video.
A real riot.
Video has shown that these agents are the ones provoking.
Look at that dude throwing rocks at windshields, okay? That is like aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, right? That could cause death instantly. So that guy should be charged and arrested, for attempted murder. Every single one of those rocks that he's throwing over there. And these people just, it's mostly peaceful.
Shown that these agents are the ones provoking protesters and also making up, aggression by these protesters that later video shows people were not aggressive.
We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests, people that are there to protest. The president is sending the National Guard because he doesn't like the scenes. He doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting.
Unrest is isolated. LA is home to millions of people, most of whom are having a normal day here on Sunday.
You've heard reports that there are riots on the streets of Los Angeles. That is not what's happening across the city of Los Angeles.
Governor Newsom's right. There wasn't anything like a riot happening on Friday, Saturday.
We just witnessed a protester thanking a National Guardsman for his service here in California.
LAPD, by most estimates, had this under control last night.
No, I don't think the National Guard is needed now. Things in LA are calm. There was a protest that got a little unruly late at night.
There have been no violence where anybody that was protesting hit anybody, shot anybody, threatened anybody. Nothing has happened.
That's Maxine Waters. If you couldn't understand her, I understand why.
What is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn.
Having fun watching cars burn. It is fun to watch a car burn, as long as it's not your car. That other guy's not having a lot of fun, though. He's like, honey, that was our whole, everything in there.
Most of those demonstrations were very peaceful. They were chanting, they were shouting.
Peaceful. Look at that. Peaceful shouting. That dude is flipping her off right there, right in the background. It's totally peaceful, mostly peaceful. F you, lady.
They were chanting, they were shouting. People were driving by.
Okay, so that is Gavin Newsom's California. So when he does this little nonsense about Trump, we had this all under control. You understand this is a propaganda piece, essentially. This is what the media is doing. If this was the opposite, if this is J6, they're on every day. Country's over. We're all dying. It's insurrection season. Trump's taken over. Capitol building's been ransacked. Everyone's going to die. All, Republicans are now enemies of the state. And it was like on repeat over and over and over again. And they're doing the exact opposite of that because it's their side. And they're all propaganda hacks. So Trump called him out a bunch. He says, arrest the people in the face masks. Do it now. Says, looking really bad in LA. Trump said, bring in the troops. He said, Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Bass should apologize to the people of LA for the absolutely horrible job that they have done. And now this includes the ongoing LA riots. These are not protesters. They are troublemakers and insurrectionists. Remember, no masks. He also said, Jim McDonald, the highly respected LAPD chief, just stated that the protesters are getting very much more aggressive and that he would have to reassess the situation as it pertains to bringing in the troops. He should right now, don't let these thugs get away with this, make America great again. Right, that was over the weekend as a lot of this was unfolding yesterday. And Trump said this, paid insurrectionists, and then posted this. A once great city called LA has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Now, violent insurrectionist mobs are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try to stop our deportation operations. But these lawless riots only strengthen our resolve. We are not backing down. I am directing now Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, in coordination with all the other relevant departments and agencies, to make all such action necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion and put an end to these migrant riots. Order will be restored. The illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Thank you, Mr. President. That's exactly what we want to hear, and that's exactly what we voted for. Thank you for making that promise. Now, Gavin's coming out. He's saying, you want to arrest me? We'll listen to it. But Gavin is also fundraising on all of this, too. So watch his little act here. But also note this, that he says to the people of L.A., don't give them the spectacle they want, right? They're a little freaked out on this. They're like, all right, torching all these cars, torching police vehicles, standing on them with F-ICE, waving the Mexican flag around. Not a good look for the Democratic Party. They have to recognize that. At least on January 6th, there were American flags there, right? It wasn't Mexican flags ransacking the Capitol. It was American flags invited in by surreptitious government actors. So here we've got this situation where he's now raising money. Don't ever use violence. Speak out peacefully in large numbers. And by the way, make a donation if you can. $20. Gavin Newsom asking you for some support. There it is. All right. So Gavin, of course, he needs to play to his base. He's like, I'm helping you people. I'm helping the illegal alien gangbangers, torture stuff. At least you can give me some money. I mean, just siphon off some of whatever that illegality money that you got coming in. Just give it to me. So here's a little bit of Newsom just explaining this. You can hear what it sounds like. Tom Holman responds to this coming up.
We're case in point as it relates to nationalizing, federalizing the National Guard, threatening now to put in Marines. So I hope these people would pause and just consider. Now, some of them, they want that kind of chaos. Some ways, they're adjacent to where Donald Trump is. But the peaceful protesters, we want to keep them safe. We want them to exercise their fundamental rights. We want to keep those that are enforcing the laws in a respectful and responsible way also safe. But Donald Trump needs to pull back. He needs to stand down.
No.
Donald
He's not going to happen. He just said it. And we're going to hear from him coming up soon, explaining why Gavin's so terrible. He's not going anywhere. So here's Gavin.
Trump is inflaming these conditions. This is Donald Trump's problem right now. And if he can't solve it, we will.
He continues to, as always, hit you hard publicly. Just 10 minutes ago, he put out another Truth Social telling you and the mayor to apologize to the people of Los Angeles. You guys go at it pretty hard publicly, but I know you talk privately. Have you spoken in the last couple of days to the president about any of this?
Yeah, we talked for almost 20 minutes, and this issue never came up. I mean, I kept trying to talk about L.A. He wanted to talk about all these other issues. We had a very decent conversation.
When was this?
This was late Friday night, I think about 1:30 plus his time.
After the protest had started?
After the protest, and he never once brought up the National Guard. He's a stone-cold liar. He said he did.
Whoa!
Stone-cold liar. Never did. It was a very civil conversation. I've always wanted to approach engagement with the President of the United States in a respectful and responsible way.
Well, that's not going to work. We call him a stone-cold liar. Trump's not going to be happy about that, Gavin.
But there's no working with the president. There's only working for him.
All right, so he goes on to talk about getting arrested. I think, is this where he wants? Yeah, let's see here.
And then created and exacerbated the conditions that are persisting today.
This is your authority normally.
All right, so who cares about Gavin? Now, he's doing a terrible job. Trump called him out on it, and Tom Holman responded to this. He says, I never wanted to arrest Gavin Newsom. A lot of this is just nonsense. We're not actually going to arrest Gavin Newsom. I never threatened it, so him saying that we are is just him kind of making something out of nothing. Here is what Tom Holman had to say about it.
Who say that these policies, those laws, Alien Enemies Act and the like, were not meant for this. One of his toughest critics right now is, of course, California Governor Newsom. We want to give you a chance to respond. Governor Newsom, in an interview with NBC News, said that he said, quote, just get it over with in terms of you arresting him. He says, quote, he's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do it? He knows where to find me. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go. That was the governor of California talking to you.
No, look, I'm not biting on that. The NBC reporter that interviewed me very dishonest. We did a 20-minute interview, and he cuts out a little clip that makes me and takes my words out of context. Here's what we said. And he talked about when I talked about these people that are these protests and rioting. When they cross the line, they got that. Well, here's what I said: they have a right to protest. They have the First Amendment rights, but they can't cross that line. They can't cross that line of impediment. They can't cross that line of putting their hands on officers. They can't cross the line of knowing, concealing, and illegal alien, because they're all federal crimes. They're in statute, and they will be prosecuted. When he asked the questions that include Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom, I was clear: they haven't crossed the line, but they're not above the law either. If they commit a crime, they certainly will ask for prosecution. That's what was happening. I never threatened to arrest Governor Newsom, so I'm not biting off on that. It's just that report is dishonest, and let him play the whole 20-minute interview, and you'll see a whole different discussion that we had.
All right, NBC News, of course.
All right, so it's kind of much ado about nothing. Now, Trump was asked about it and kind of created something on this and was also asked about this today. So Town Hall had this clip. Trump was doing a business innovation roundtable and was asked, oh, what are you going to arrest Gavin for there, Trump?
And what crime has he committed that would warrant his arrest? What crime has Governor Newsom committed?
A crime has he committed?
Yeah, to warrant his arrest, as you
I think his
suggested earlier.
primary crime is running for governor because he's done such a bad job. What he's done to that state
So a
is like
non-serious
what
answer.
Biden did to this country. And
now, when Trump talks like that, the media takes him literally, right? They say, wow. So Trump is just saying if you run for office, then he'll prosecute you because it's criminal, right? Trump is saying, he's talking, I think, colloquially. The idea is, well, yeah, I mean, his whole life is a crime, actually, especially that hairdo. You seeing that? It's criminal. So the whole point is it's going to be misinterpreted. And this happens with Trump all the time. Oh, my gosh. The only people who actually made it a crime for running for the presidency was their party. 4 times for Trump. Tried to indict him indicted him 4 times to try to take him off the field. And then when that didn't work, then they tried to remove him from the ballot. So I think Trump's just kind of being jokey here.
that's pretty bad. It's the wrong philosophy. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants, many of them prisoners. They're taking up your health care. They're taking up your space in schools. They're taking up your hospital. And in many cases, they're criminals. And we have to do something about it. And we're doing something about it. I want to
And what crime has he
We
committed
are doing
that
something
would
about
warrant
it.
his-
So Trump got asked about that today. We also saw that the LAPD headquarters were getting visited by the peaceful protesters here, and they were having some peaceful conversations with the windows right outside the LAPD headquarters. Now, LAPD headquarters got their windows smashed up in downtown LA as the anti-ICE protests continue. So it sounds like Gavin's got it all under control. The police can't even protect their own windows there. This is according to Oilia Scootercaster, who does great reporting over on X. So not looking ideal. Now, Gavin came out and said, I have formally requested Trump rescinds their unlawful deployment of troops, and sent this letter over to Hegseth saying, you should remove it. There's no need for the National Guard to be there. Of course, Trump has responded to this, and now 7,000 Marines are on their way, getting ready for deployment. What Ted Cruz caught for us is Gavin Newsom's translation. Ted Cruz has been doing this for a long time, and he has a podcast. Someone should subscribe to it. It says, I have formally requested the president, he's translating liberal for us since he's been doing this for a while. It says, I have formally requested the president stop enforcing federal law in California. From Gavin. In the Golden State, we embrace lawlessness. We welcome rioters and looters. We want even more illegal aliens and gang members. We handcuff our police and celebrate our criminals, and we hate America. Good. That's good. He didn't have to use AI for that, but that's exactly what he said in that whole letter. So we don't have to read it. Thanks, Ted. So you can see there's more here. Karen Bass was brought out. She is blaming Trump. So the city that invites millions of illegals in there rolls out the red carpet for them, gives them handouts in the form of public benefits and free education and free health care and the free driver's licenses and whatever they want. In fact, in some locations, they're running the legislature now. But you can see Karen Bass is explaining here that Trump is the cause of all of this.
I just have to say that if you dial back time and go to Friday, if immigration raids had not happened here, we would not have the disorder that went on last night. I will tell you that it is peaceful now, but we do not know where and when the next raids will be.
Well, that's the point. Yeah, and we're going to continue the raids until the illegal aliens are gone. Now, the Attorney General from California has also decided to sue. So we'll be seeing this at some point, probably get an injunction. Trump will have to vacate the presidency from some psycho California judge. But Rob Bonta is now going to be suing in conjunction with Gavin Newsom against President Trump, and Trump really doesn't care. Here's what he said about that when asked about this new lawsuit, which is coming his way.
And right around the time that we were walking in here, the governor and the state attorney general said that they're going to sue you for sending the National Guard in. They're saying there's no invasion, there's no rebellion. The president is trying to manufacture chaos and crisis on the ground for his own political ends. Federalizing the California National Guard is an abuse of the president's authority under law.
Well, you know, it's interesting. You watched the same clips as I did. Cars burning all over the place, people rioting. And by the way, we stopped it. We were able to make it much better, but it still looked pretty bad. And in watching clips last night, people were saying this is really a big problem. And until we went in, if we didn't do the job, that place would be burning down just like the houses burned down. They were in big trouble last night, Peter. You know it. And the night before, and the night before that. And I feel we had no choice. I don't want to see happen what happened so many times in this country. I watched Minneapolis burn. Look at what happened in so many different parts of California. You take a look at what happened in San Diego. There's so many different places where we let it burn. We want to be politically correct. We wanted to be nice. We want to be nice to the criminal. And what you're doing is destroying the fabric of our life in this country. No, we did the right thing. We've been given credit by people that I would least suspect. Why I would say that some of the people that came in and said, thank goodness, they said, some of them, thank God that Trump got involved. And I'm very happy I got involved. And I think Gavin, in his own way, is probably happy I got involved. Yeah,
That's probably right. Gavin now is going to be using Trump as a cudgel. But Gavin's kind of boxed in, too. Like, what can he do? Because he has so invested in this that he can no longer run away from the outcome. Now, what is so good about this, of course, politically speaking, we've got a lot of layers to this, obviously, right? So you've got the existential crisis that the country is in. We've got this idea that demographics are destiny. And if you have 30 million people here, okay, we'll be reasonable, 20 million. All right. So if you have 20 million people who drop babies out and they have a next generation of illegal alien parents, then those citizens, as long as we've got birthright citizenship that doesn't get resolved in front of the Supreme Court, you have a whole different country just by virtue of the demographics. And that is why, right, many people are pointing to this as the fork in the road moment, right? We've got to regain control of our country after 4 years of invasion. It was already an invasion, but then they were Ubering them in via United Airlines, or whatever, who's flying them, into the country and paying for it at scale for 4 years. So we have to undo that harm. It's perhaps the most pressing existential threat for the United States. It has to happen, almost regardless of the politics. Like, well, this is it. Do you want to have a country or not? Do we have lawlessness or not? And do you reward the people who broke the law and give your country to them? Because that's kind of the path that we're on, which is why there's an urgency here. But with all of that being said, we also have politics to consider as well, right? Because politics can help the mission. And if Trump starts to act too aggressively or starts to do something that causes the country to recoil, then you might have a political backlash and then you lose that battle, right? So you got to keep politics in mind as well. Fortunately, many people are seeing what we're all seeing here and have been seeing for years, which is an invasion is not good for the country. It's not good for our markets. It's not good for our education system, our healthcare systems, not good for our welfare systems or our public benefit systems. We're getting ransacked at the Treasury, going to NGOs, going to public services, and we're all just sick of it. Then we see their peaceful protests are their flags doing cartwheels around, cheering to Mexico and their foreign nations while they're seizing our land, destroying our properties, and wrecking our neighborhoods. And we're pretty sick of it. So CNN is capturing this feeling in the polls, and here is what they are reporting.
Now, if we just take a look at the baseline numbers here, this is Trump's net approval rating on immigration. It's gone up like a rocket. Compare now versus 8 years ago during Trump's first term. Look at this. In his first term, Trump was way, way, way underwater at minus 21 points. But look at this. He's up over 20 points. Now, in the aggregate, he is in positive territory at plus 1 point on his net approval rating. Some other polls even have it a little bit higher than that. There is no issue on which Trump is doing so much better than he was in his first term, more than the issue of immigration. No wonder the Times has written up the way that he is. Trump is begging for a fight on this because he knows what he's doing so far is working with the American electorate.
Right thing to do.
Where does immigration rank on issues for him? How is he doing compared to other issues?
Yeah, so I think what's so important is it is his top issue so far, and the reason it is his top issue is because take a look at the individual nuggets in here. Why are people approving of Trump on immigration, approve of these different immigration actions, while Trump's administration's program to deport those here illegally. Look at this, 54% approval. How about agents searching your hometown for those that they think are here illegally? Again, positive territory here, above 50% for Donald Trump. So it's not just on the broad issue of immigration where Trump is doing well. It's on the specifics. When you dive into the issues, Trump is above 50% and his actions are above 50%, at least with those most directly connected to what's going on right now out in Los Angeles.
So Donald Trump, the president, picking a fight on this, and to an extent, you see Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, a Democrat.
It's not picking a fight. This is what he campaigned on. He ran for years saying he was going to solve this problem, got the legs cut out from under him during the first term, and is now making good on the promise. So it's not picking a fight. These governors and mayors and sanctuary city administrators are the ones who are picking the fight with federal law. It's time to enforce the law in America, and illegals can be shown no more quarter.
And the California governor, Gavin Newsom, pushing back. So what do voters see in terms of their perceptions of Republicans, the president, or Democrats, say Gavin Newsom on this issue?
Yeah, the American electorate believe that the Democrats don't have a clue on the issue of immigration. I mean, you could just take it here. Closer to trust more in immigration, Democrats versus Republicans. Got 3 different polls for you across the board. They all tell the same story. Republicans lead on the issue of immigration. You see it here, CBS +6. You see it here, CNN +6. You see it here, Ipsos, even bigger, +19. No matter what poll you look at, no matter which way you cut it, the American public is with the Republicans, the American public is with Donald Trump, and to a much greater extent than they were in term number 1. And it's not just on the broad issue of immigration, it's on the specifics as well, in which the American public is with Donald Trump and the Republicans. And that is why Donald Trump is eager to take on this fight and eager for those scenes out of Los Angeles.
Yeah, and it's going to make his legacy, right? It's going to save the country after Joe Biden and his administration's treasonous invasion, where they facilitated foreigners to come in hand over fist for 4 straight years. So Trump, of course, going to continue to battle this out. Gavin Newsom and the Democrats will continue their lawsuits and more. But Trump is on the side of the American people and doing what needs to get done. And we're going to be here supporting every inch of the effort. All right, so good updates there. Now let's turn our attention to this. Next story. Yeah. These protests and riots are much worse than many of us even can imagine. I see this statement by the president as concerning in conjunction with a long history of cultural efforts to reconquer this portion of the United States. This is a Wikipedia article called The Reconquista, which you may have heard about, but it's this effort by the Mexicans, I guess, to take over land that they say was unlawfully stolen from them. And now that we have the Mexican president saying that these violent rioter insurrectionists in America, now that she's calling them heroes, it leads one to believe that maybe this guy is telling the truth. We'll come back to this story because this guy is explaining exactly what we're talking about. They're not here because they're upset with ICE violating due process rights. They're here because they're reconquering land that they think was stolen from them. So Claudia Sheinbaum is now encouraging them to be mobilized. But here's the background, right? The term Reconquista is a term that's describing a vision by different groups. You really don't know exactly who it is. We'll just say Mexico. They're advocating for greater Mexico. They say that the United States annexed this territory illegally. It means reconquest. And it says that they want their land back. Came from some of these Latin American writers, bunch of keynote addresses and more. But in summation, the idea is that is their land. They say in 1915, the capture of a supporter of the Mexican dictator also revealed the plan of San Diego, right? So this was something that actually happened, this plan of San Diego. You can see this little plan to insurrect and take back this land and hold it. The plan of San Diego was drafted by a friend of a guy called Basilio Ramos. And they signed the document. The group of the Mexican and the Tejano rebels hope to seize Arizona, New Mexico, California, and Colorado, and most importantly, Texas, to create an independent libertarian republic for Mexicans. The plan also called for neighboring states to be seized. It called for a general uprising February 1915 and the mass killings of every non-Hispanic and Caucasian male over the age of 16. Here's their plan. Put written down. February, a mass killing of anybody who's not Hispanic. Non-Hispanic white males, you're dead. The area for revolt included all of South Texas. German Americans were excluded from the killing, suspected to be because of the Imperial German involvement in the uprising. Some theories also state that the true goal of the plan was to create conditions to force the U.S. to support one of the factions of the Mexican Revolution, namely this group, which eventually occurred. Although there was no uprising, because prominent proponents were imprisoned or killed, supporters of the plan initiated the Bandit War. They launched raids into Texas from Mexico, as well as inside Texas itself, beginning July 1915. The raids were countered by the U.S. Army, local self-defense groups, and most infamously the Texas Rangers, whose escapades in the region during this time were met with intense criticism due to the indiscriminate killing of Mexicans. In total, don't raid the country. In total, 30 raids into Texas destroyed large amounts of property and killed 21 Americans. Yeah. A train robbery also occurred. Deaths of 5 others and wounding 6 others. Not known who's responsible for the plan of San Diego, but there are theories that Mexican revolutionary leaders helped to sponsor it. And by the way, it's not over, okay? They have this whole organization, there's another organization called Aztlan, which is their reclamation of this territory. And here you say this. In an interview, this person, one of the main leaders of this in 2000, said that many recent Mexican immigrants to the United States, it's not like some fringe theory, many recent Mexican immigrants want to recreate all of Mexico and join all of Mexico into one on this stolen land. And they're going to do that, even if it's just demographically. See that? They're going to have political sovereignty over the Southwest and many parts of the Midwest because they're going to breed out the Americans because we allowed them to. In a videotape made by a watchdog website, Gutierrez was quoted saying, "We are millions. All we have to do is survive. That's all. We have an aging white America," he says this. "We're not making babies. They're dying. It's just a matter of time. The explosion is our population. We're just going to invade them, drop a bunch of babies, and we'll have their country." In a subsequent interview, he backtracked and said, no. He said, no, there's no viable Reconquista movement. He said, all of this is just by right-wingers on their right-wing blogs. Yeah. We know what they're doing. They've talked about it. Other neoliberal writers, they say it's not a Reconquista. It's just natural ebbs and flows of people. National Council of La Raza also stated, we don't endorse the notion of Reconquista. We don't endorse Aztlan. Yeah. We know you can't do it because that would be a malicious attack on our country. And of course, that's what they're doing. They've done it before. Plan of 1915, Plan of San Diego, and there is still this afoot. It's not just me saying this. You can listen to this dude here. He was at an LA protest. He's a man who entered the United States illegally, and he was out protesting ICE, another illegal in our country. He said he's anti-capitalist, wants the U.S. to become a socialist country similar to the Soviet Union. Illegal. So these are these guys who are part of this movement. They're in our country. They're protesting, and they think should be entitled to every single right that you get. In fact, due process plus, drive around without insurance or licensing, drive around trafficking people, call the FBI, let you go. No repercussions for anything. And now this is part of their invasion, insurrection, and reconquest of our country happening right now on our streets.
We don't agree with the term illegal. We're undocumented.
You're illegal.
We've been here for thousands of years before you guys showed up, screw up everything. We think we should organize together with the U.S. working class and fight together and create a better system. We're anti-capitalist. We think socialism does work, real socialism, not Venezuela, not Cuba, not any of that crap that they try to sell us as socialism. And we believe it would be a more humane system that will take care of most of all people's necessities.
Is there a country we can look to kind of model the socialism idea?
The only model would be Soviet Union, the first 4 years. After that, it became a mess. Sadly, there was a bureaucrat leadership that grew out of that, but it has to do mainly with the attacks of the U.S. and all big powers against that system that was working. In the few years that it lasted, it showed the world that it could do much better than capitalism.
Okay, so this communist Soviet Union fanboy at least speaks English in our country. That's, positive. Don't know how long he's been here. Don't know if he's a citizen or not. Sounds like he said he was reporting he was an illegal. A man who entered the United States illegally was here explaining how crappy our country is and how we took his land, because they've been here for thousands of years, until we showed up and won it fair and square. And we had a whole revolution, or Texas had a revolution, and threw the Mexicans out. Then we had the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. We signed it with their people. There were some people saying we should annex all of Mexico. We didn't do that, but maybe we should have. But the point here is this guy is explaining the thesis. This is who they are. This is what they want. They're reclaiming all of this land for their original historical people, and they're invading under those terms. Now, we also see this. This is a major problem and something we've noticed in Arizona my whole life. The amount of remittances from certain states and from our country in general that leave our country and go to Mexico is in the billions. 50 to 60 billion a year, has been that way for a long time. That's a lot of money that's going out of our economy and into somebody else's. Okay, that $50 billion, if the Mexicans and the illegals were not sending it over to Mexico, then they could spend that money in our country, right? Just if it was going to a U.S., like that 50 billion was going to U.S. citizens in our country, then they would spend it on goods and services in our country. And then that would have the multiplier effect of creating economic value. Every time I give you $1, you pay some taxes on that and income, then you use that dollar, mix your labor with it, then you buy something and somebody else buys something and somebody else buys, and so it's all very multiplicative according to certain economic theories. But the point here is that money is leaving our country and going back down there, being siphoned out largely by illegal aliens. And in this one big beautiful bill, when we start talking about shoring up our finances to put a tax on those remittances, you want to send money out of our country, you're going to get taxed on that and enjoy it. Claudia Sheinbaum, who's the president of Mexico, explains, if necessary, she says this in Spanish, will mobilize. We don't want taxes on remittances from our fellow countrymen, from the U.S. to Mexico, okay? If necessary, we'll mobilize. You can hear it.
Porque de ser necesario nos vamos a movilizar. Porque no
It might be necessary for us to mobilize.
queremos que haya impuestos a las remesas de nuestros paisanos.
We don't want any taxes on remittances to Mexico.
De Estados Unidos a México.
From U.S. to Mexico. We don't want it. So we're getting ready to mobilize. You tax their little siphoning off of our economy? Wow. Then they start to get agitated about it, and she doesn't care. She's very happy about these violent maniacs who have come from her country or through her country into our country, wrecking the streets of LA. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, she hails migrants as heroes in a shocking response to all these riots. Claudia Sheinbaum fanned the flames of these riots. She called the Mexican illegals living in the U.S. heroes while blasting Trump. Violent clashes broke out in LA after dozens of illegals were arrested on Friday in raids. She said, we disagree with this approach to the migration phenomenon. I know, it's so confusing how this happens. This phenomenon. Weird. It's like deep space analysis or something. No. You are enabling it and encouraging it because it's benefiting your country. We disagree with this approach. Says it's not about raids or violence, but it's about working on comprehensive reform. Yeah, we'll help us reform as soon as everyone's gone. Sheinbaum said that 35 Mexican nationals were arrested by ICE agents. Yeah, Mexicans living in the U.S. are good, honest men. Yeah, like that dude who shot up that high school party, and women who left to seek a better life from themselves and support their family, she said at her press conference. They're not criminals. Some of them are, and actually all of them are. If they're here illegally, they broke our laws. They may not be charged with crimes criminally. They could, though. We could hit them all with felonies If we wanted to prosecute them through the felony courts, it is a felony. You can't do that. We don't charge them with felonies because we don't want to put them all through trials and give them all that due process that's afforded in the Article 3 courts when you're charged with a crime. Much easier for us to just administratively, as has been done for decades, use the Article 2 courts and the Immigration Nationality Act to deport these people without going through the full litany. That's what the Constitution affords and provides for. So they are, in fact, criminals if we decided to charge them. We don't for their benefit. Maybe we should. The president also lauded the contributions of Mexicans in the LA area, like this guy. Here's a great contribution. Oh, he's got a nice Trump head there. What a nice person. What a good man. Just here to improve his life and make things better for us. And he's representative of their country. That's why he's walking around with a flag. So you can say he's a bad actor or whatever. This is a dude who is a foreign invader in a foreign country planting a foreign flag. It's a hostile act, obviously, and he's got a decapitated Trump there. Here's a couple other lunatics here. We got this more here coming in. Census Bureau, as of 2024 July, showed almost 48% of the city is Hispanic or Latino. At least 31% claim Mexican ancestry. LA wouldn't be what it is if it weren't for the Mexicans who are here, said Scheinbaum. In LA, the United States is what it is thanks to the work of our fellow Mexicans who live across the border. She welcomed Mexican migrants back with open arms. I hope so. She says, we call for a ban on violence. We're instructed to stay in touch with the people who got arrested. Tensions worsened. Trump deployed 2,000 National Guard. Protesters everywhere. And here's some more really good men who are just seeking a better life in America. And what's the blue flag? Like, what is that? Is that a, I don't know what that is. We got this one here. Los Angeles, it's not American, I'll tell you that. It's not an American flag. So here is more. This is exactly what Trump wanted, somebody else said. And don't give in. Don't give in. Don't be violent. You're making us look just terrible. So Claudia Scheinbaum says mobilize. This dude says it's our land. And this lady is a representative in Minnesota who says she is literally an illegal alien who is now a state legislator and representative. An illegal alien in charge of representing constituents in Minnesota admits she's an illegal on the House floor. And what's so curious about this is the reason she's doing this, I would presume, is so she has legislative immunity. You can't arrest me. I can say whatever I want out there. So I'm immune from any consequences of this. But hopefully they investigate her and just say, oh, no, it has nothing to do with your admission. What your statement here, what you said doesn't matter at all. We just looked into your background and found you're an illegal now. So we're not going to use your admission against you. You're immune from your admission, but you're going back to your home country. Get out.
Because his mother had died. My father, as the one processing the paperwork, put my grandmother down as his mother. And so I am illegal in this country. My parents are illegal here in this country. Because his mother...
Okay, so who knows exactly what she means by that, but we should take her at her word for it. Don't know if she's saying I'm illegal because there was some paperwork problem, or I don't know if she was like physically born here or what that was exactly. But we don't care. She admitted it, so that's good enough for us, and it's time for her to go too. Now, here's another one. So the flags we know, okay, flags for history throughout the eternity of time have always been about identifying your tribe and about essentially conquest. This is ours now, not yours. So when you start to see foreigners come into your country, burn down your property, and then plant their flag, it certainly feels like a hostile act to basically everybody because it's almost in our bones. We kind of get it, right? You have symbols, you've got names, you've got these things that matter and create these connective tissues in our brains because we're in many ways tribal people, tribal creatures. So here you can see the Mexican flag. The New York Times is now revising the definition of what all this means. The Mexican flag becomes a potent LA protest symbol. It's just a symbol. It's not an act of conquest. No. So we're not going to let them get away with that, obviously. Says Trump officials have cast demonstrators waving the Mexican flag as insurrectionists because, you know, it's a foreign nation planting their flag on your country. But for many protesters who are Mexican American, the flag represents pride in their heritage. All right. So that's their whitewashing of what's actually happening. It's not Mexican pride. This is conquest and invasion. You can see it on the screen in the images. They're waving it because they're in charge of that region and they've conquered that domain. And we're going to see it continue on, saying that they have entitlement to be here, which is the bigger point. It's not even about the physical location as much as it is their claim, you're not removing us, you're not taking us out, your laws mean nothing to us. We're going to act in defiance of them by waving our flag around here, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. So Trump, of course, is going to look into it. We had some great posts about this from Data Republican and also from Laura Powell, who are explaining who these people ultimately are. And so Laura Powell on X, I highly recommend you follow her, and of course Data Republican. But she's pointing this all back to CHIRLA, the Coalition for Human Immigrant Rights, one of the key players in fomenting this response. It's an LA-based nonprofit, history of taking radical positions on immigration. In 2018, there was a campaign to abolish ICE, currently leads the LA Rapid Response Network, which gathers intel and deploys activists to get out there. CHIRLA also has strong ties to the Democratic Party, has supported the election of Democrat candidates throughout its lobbying arm, in particular very close with Karen Bass. The organization also has a close relationship to the SEIU, who was also just arrested. Now, the incredible part on all of this, who's funding this? CHIRLA's activities are primarily funded by California taxpayers, so they're doing this to themselves. Says Laura, I obtained a financial audit that shows that for the fiscal year ending in 2023, the Department of Social Services, accounting for 72% of its total revenue, gave them $34 million from the state. $34 million for this illegal alien invasion organization. They also got a $500,000 federal contract. Mayor Bass got credit for that. Then Homeland came in and canceled that, and the lawsuit was dismissed. Now, Eisenhower warned of this. Look at all this money. Coalition for Human and Immigrant Rights. All this. Funded by the taxpayers. It's funding the invasion. It's funding the seizure of our lands by our own government. So we also had Data Republican also IDing CHIRLA. Says here's some of the photos. Went through. Says CHIRLA has an EIN of this. 34 million in its revenue came from government grants and has done a total deep dive on them. So make sure you're following Data Republican as well if you're looking for more details on how far that rabbit hole goes. Now, we also saw that certain people out there who are doxing ICE are now deleting their accounts. And so there was this one guy called LA Scanner today. That account has now been nuked, I'm pretty sure. And so the resistance is slowly crumbling away in some capacity, but in others, they've got $34 million of funding, and they've got guys like this who are admitting what they're doing and what all of these signs are for. They're explaining that they are untouchable, it's their country, and the Reconquista is well underway. So thank you for sharing this video so people know that there's a lot more to this, that this has been something that's been brewing for almost 200 years, and there was an attempt to reclaim some of the country back in 1915. And they're admitting it in writing and retracting it, that they're now doing it by population and by invasion, so that they can just take the demographics, shift them in their favor, and reclaim half of our country. We're not going to let them do it. Thanks for being here and joining our channel as our coverage on this case continues. All right, so good stuff there. Now let's do one final update and see what's going on in this court case, and then we'll hear from you and see what you say about this massive invasion and riot situation. But here's what's going on in the Kilmar case. Trump prosecutors are doubling down. They do not want Kilmar wife-beater Abrego to get out of custody. Previously here, we read through the government's motion and memo to hold him in detention, saying this guy's got a bad history, was involved with underage kids, shoving them in his car, was abusing the illegal alien migrants he was creating and bringing across. He was apparently soliciting some very illegal imagery from other people and more. Long history. Also allegations that he eliminated the mama of a gang member who was on the opposite end of the gang in order to get admission into MS-13. So in addition to all of that, now Trump's DOJ has come down and said, hey, we actually have some more info that we'd like to share with you, court. And here it is, saying, comes now the United States of America through the U.S. DOJ attorney called Robert McGuire, and we are going to provide some more information. We say that we are entitled to a detention hearing because the offense alleged in count 1 involves a minor victim, right? So the conspiracy here from Kilmar invokes this portion of the law and says we're entitled to a detention hearing on our own motion. Now, the United States also submits that the government, Trump, is also entitled to a detention hearing here because there's a serious risk that he's going to flee. And finally, we submit that we're entitled to a detention hearing because there is a serious risk that he's going to obstruct, threaten, or injure or intimidate a prospective witness. And so pursuant to these findings, we're entitled to a detention hearing, and we're now submitting this as evidence. Writing. In paragraph 23 of our indictment against Kilmar, the grand jury alleged that members of the conspiracy, including the defendant Kilmar, transported children on the floorboards of his vehicles to maximize profits. At the hearing, the United States anticipates calling Special Agent Pete Joseph with HSI. Also anticipates that Joseph will testify that he interviewed at least one co-conspirator who described that members of the conspiracy transported undocumented, unaccompanied children during the course of the conspiracy, okay, trafficking kids. Van Hollen went down there to have a margarita with a child trafficker. The United States expects Agent Joseph will also testify that he learned during the course of the investigation that other members of the conspiracy transported minors in an unsafe manner. For example, a co-conspirator described that Kilmar would sometimes travel with young children or family members as cover for his illegal trafficking scheme. So if stopped by law enforcement, they would just say, oh, we're on a family trip, that's all. On these occasions, the co-conspirator described the children were often seated on the floorboards so that the alien transportees who had paid other co-conspirators could have the seats. This would allow more paying aliens to be transported and increase the money. On these occasions, it was also clear to the co-conspirator working with Kilmar that Kilmar was simply using children to cover up his illegal actions as part of the overall conspiracy. And the presence of the children did not accomplish any legitimate travel purpose at all. And so this dude was trafficking kids. Now, it's important that the involvement of the minor victim is not an element of the other crime, nor does the statute reference minors. But within federal law, if there's a conspiracy to smuggle illegal aliens regularly, if it involves the smuggling of unaccompanied minors, it counts. Now, as an example, the sentencing guidelines provides for a 2-level sentencing enhancement for members of conspiracies that transport unaccompanied alien minors, right? So the guidelines say you get penalized up 2 levels in the chart. Indeed, several circuits have also said that an enhancement could also be applied to an alien smuggling, even if that co-conspirator takes a position that he didn't know the minors. Doesn't matter, you were transporting them. In other words, it's not so far afield that a scheme to transport illegal aliens would also involve the transportation of minors. It's so routine the guidelines even say there's enhanced punishment for this. The United States anticipates that the testimony at the hearing will establish that this conspiracy did in fact involve minors, and he used other minors to cover up the transporting of the minors. As it relates to the law, federal courts have also determined that judges can look past the elements of the charged offense to determine if there's an effect on children. In another case, and in the Second Circuit, they supported this allegation as well. There's even a line of federal cases that have determined that an offense involved a minor when the facts did not involve an actual minor but were sufficiently dangerous to entitle a hearing. And at least one federal circuit has also concluded that minor children transportees can be considered victims and vulnerable victims for sentencing enhancement purposes. And finally, the United States would respectfully submit that the word involved was chosen by Congress to be broad. A minor victim does not have to be the object of the crime and doesn't even have to be a predominant feature of the crime, just in connection to it. Here, the smuggling of children and using them as cover for this, as part of the regular conspiracy, is significant. Just as sentencing analysis would apply, there were minor victims here that should have the same impact. The United States submits that the relevant testimony at the hearing will establish, by a preponderance of the evidence, so 51% more likely than not, that undocumented, unaccompanied children were transported as part of the conspiracy. Also saying, if you don't think it's just a children problem, like don't let this dude out, he's also going to be a flight risk, serious risk of flight. We understand that this district is different than some other districts, but first, the court submits that he faces a potentially lengthy sentence. Now, while each count carries a statutory maximum of 10 years, the U.S. has previously cited 2 cases which stand for the proposition that he may face the maximum sentence per alien transported. Okay, so, and he did like 1,000 of them by our count. So 1,000 times 10, or 8 to 10,000 years max. They say these cases are not binding on you, but they are persuasive authority that you could stack those counts. Given that this indictment alleges that he transported 9 aliens and that they've identified on November 30th alone, the date of that traffic stop, that could just be 90 years just for that one stop. Now, this court has previously noted that Kilmar and other defendants facing lengthy sentences have a great potential for flight. And here, the parties understand that if the court denies our detention motion and lets this dude out, he's going to go to immigration anyways, for immigration purposes. However, for the purposes of analysis, assume arguendo that this was not the case. If he were released from custody and let back out into the community, he would have an enormous reason to flee. So, like, we're not going to release him, obviously, to the public. ICE will just take him, they say. But you shouldn't let him go because, think about it this way. If ICE was not there, you shouldn't let him go. While he was previously found to be deportable, an order of withholding of removal was apparently applied to him in 2019. Yeah, it was apparently applied. It was for Guatemala, not El Salvador. Pursuant to the law, which is codified, an alien cannot be granted withholding of removal if he, having been convicted by a final judgment of a particularly serious crime, is a danger to the United States. The same statute says, for the purposes of Clause 2, an alien who has been convicted of an aggravated felony, or if there's a term of imprisonment more than 5 years from other felonies, that is a serious crime. So that would qualify for Kilmar here. And therefore, when observing the entire law, the serious risk of flight is abundantly clear. If he's convicted as charged, his withholding of removal order would be in serious jeopardy, and he would flee and face deportation to El Salvador would increase to a near certainty. However, were he to flee and become a fugitive, thus stymieing his criminal case that may lead to deportation, he could remain in the United States ad infinitum and just not leave. And so respectfully, this is where the United States submits that Kilmar's flight risk is both serious and cannot be controlled by any conditions. In addition to a substantial prison sentence, he also faces, with the conviction, the near certainty of being deported with no legal pathway to come back at all. If he is convicted, with the conviction prompting the revocation of his withholding, and I also think the withholding has already been removed by the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act, which says withholding of removal doesn't apply to people who are issued or proclaimed to be alien enemies. Trump said MS-13 gangbangers are alien enemies. This guy was already adjudicated to be an MS-13 gangbanger in his prior immigration proceedings. They already made that finding, didn't release him on bond, and he lost his appeal, and he was gone. So being an AEA designee invalidates withholding of removal by operation of the law. So either way, he's going bye-bye. So he could no longer enter the United States. He can't make asylum claims. He would be barred for eligibility for federal law, and he would face serious prison time. And if convicted, he'll never be in the United States. Now, this differs from a citizen defendant who will be here. Now, finally, he has been used to living in the shadows. We will submit evidence at the hearing that Kilmar operated in the illicit world of an international smuggling ring for years. Who is the rest of the ring? Who was on the other side of that down there in El Salvador that Van Hollen went to go meet up with? Such a world requires secrecy and repeated contacts with individuals who operate outside the law. The evidence is going to show that Kilmar drove thousands of miles with illicit human cargo while risking discovery at every turn, and did so dozens of times, doesn't care. In short, he's not simply charged with a single incident of wrongdoing. This is a long-term commitment to the secret transport of individuals who were themselves breaking the law, and this shows that he's going to flee. The evidence will also show that he had little compunction about working in an illicit business while dodging the efforts of law enforcement. It doesn't take much imagination for him to commit a similar course, only this time for himself. This circumstance alone places him in a separate category of a serious flight risk, and as noted, he's also a member in a notorious international street gang that's now been designated as an FTO. These connections, which were described by witnesses to law enforcement during investigations and later relayed to the grand jury, only amplify the risk of flight. He is not only used to shadowy dealings, but he's also a member of a foreign terrorist organization which could assist him even more permanently in evading the law. And his newfound prominence as this major figure that the Democrats love also puts him in a unique and unignorable position to use the sympathy of misguided strangers like Van Hollen will show up there. He's like, I'll save you, if he's released. Now, should the court conclude that we have established that he's a risk of flight, the court can consider his non-appearance under the normal course of analysis. In other words, once the United States is entitled to a hearing, then it's not required to hurdle a higher burden as it relates to non-appearance. We would still have to establish the risk of non-appearance by preponderance of the evidence, and once again, his immigration status can be considered because he's going to be removed. And so in conclusion, Kilmar faces a substantial sentence. He's got an exceptional motivation to flee. He's got tremendous experience in committing criminal offenses for years, and he knows how to avoid law enforcement detection. For all these reasons, we submit that a preponderance of the evidence establishes he is a serious risk of flight. And if you determine he's not, that he is, his risk of non-appearance due to his potential deportation means you should consider detaining him. And as you will hear at the hearing, we've interviewed multiple witnesses about this criminal conspiracy. These witnesses are going to be critical to our case. Even if the United States takes appropriate steps to shield them, he will almost certainly be able to deduce their identities and the context from the facts. And so we anticipate we're going to hear about his association with MS-13. And it's been referenced by a number of other courts, MS-13 and all these other cases. And so we respectfully submit this is an appropriate factor to consider about whether he's going to obstruct witnesses or intimidate them. We would submit that at least one co-conspirator has said that Kilmar has previously used his MS-13 gang membership not just to facilitate his illegal smuggling, but also to intimidate others, okay? My MS-13 homies will take you out. To confront him about the treatment of female smuggling victims and smuggling firearms as well. Now, the United States notes that it's simply not that the defendant could potentially put critical witnesses at risk personally, but this is a high-profile case. There's a lot of risk of intimidation. The government depends on our witnesses. We don't want them to be impeded by Kilmar. And so, in conclusion, the United States respectfully submits. We're going to use our prior motion in addition to this one, saying we're entitled to a hearing. Kilmar poses a serious flight risk. And if you grant a hearing, you should consider everything we've said here. Consider this filing, our prior filing, consider testimony and argument signed by two DOJ attorneys, Robert McGuire and Jacob Warren. Shout out to both of them coming in from the DOJ. All right, so they're doubling down on the Kilmar case. Kilmar is currently in federal custody, being charged with crimes now in Nashville. And they do not want him released. And we don't think he's going to get released, but you never know. Some of these judges can go a little bit wild in their proceedings. But we've got, this is the docket. Notice of appearance just got entered from Dumaka Shabazz. So he's now got an attorney. Oh, but it's a public defender. Oh, that's weird. Where are the ACLU gangbangers at? Coming in on his criminal case. Oh, do they not care about his criminal case? Were they just exploiting him so that they could use his case to get a nationwide injunction to stop any deportations and exploiting this illegal alien wife-beating criminal for their own civil offenses in front of Judge Zenas' courtroom? Yeah, where are the gangbangers on this one? Gangbang lawyers. Instead, they had to go with a good person, a federal public defender called Dumaka Shabazz, who's actually interested in, doing his role in justice. But the ACLU gangbang lawyers, probably not that interested, because this judge is not going to issue a nationwide injunction that is going to be useful to them. And as we know, they're just partisan hacks. They don't care about justice or due process or anything. They just care about stopping Trump. They'll exploit anybody to do it, and do it until they achieve victory. We're not going to let that happen, my friends. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking this video. And thanks for joining us when we're back here on the next one. All right, so my beautiful friends, what an amazing stream it has been. If you're just joining us, quick recap. We talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about the Insurrection Act and whether or not that can be invoked, how that could be invoked. We heard Dana Bash, however you say her name, I don't know how to say it. Dana Bash, who's basically Jake Tapper in blonde, who came out and said that Trump is invoking the Insurrection Act, or is using the word insurrection, and she was a little bit perturbed about it because they don't want to admit the truth about what's going on. We learned from Tom Holman that this has been used before, and Trump is totally in compliance with the law, and we'll see what comes next. We also went through President Trump and this back and forth between Gavin Newsom over this so-called arrest of Gavin Newsom. Turns out Tom Holman doesn't want to arrest him, never even intimated that. But they want to turn it into this Gavin Newsom's under attack thing because he has no meaning or purpose in his life and he wants something exciting to happen to him so people will like him again or something. We saw they're wrecking LAPD headquarters. Ted Cruz did some translation for us. We heard Karen Bass. We saw they're suing. And then Trump said that they can sue all they want, but we're not going to let our cities be burnt to the ground. We then talked about this new Reconquista that is happening from the Mexicans, apparently. And this fella was out there talking about it on the ground floor of the LA riots and insurrection. And even Claudia Sheinbaum is hailing them as heroes and saying that if we dare tax remittances, they're going to continue to mobilize. So we learned about the Reconquista. We learned about the plan of San Diego and how in 1915 they were going to go kill a bunch of Americans and all white people. So, they say history repeats and rhymes at times. So we got that coming up. We saw that they're trying to say, actually, their flags are not symbols of incursion and invasion and conquest. They're just peaceful flags, just like the trans flags. Okay, we know what they mean. And the trans flags mean the same thing, too. Don't get it twisted. So we got that. We heard a little bit more about Churla, courtesy of Data Republican, and Laura Powell. And then we went through the latest on the Kilmar case and find that the ACLU is nowhere to be found. Of course, how convenient. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. And am I seeing this right? Is it happy birthday to K Bean today? K Bean, happy birthday. K Bean, mod extraordinaire, who's amazing. K Bean has been a big friend of the show for a long time. Happy birthday to you, K Bean. I hope you're doing something amazing and celebrating and having tons of fun, or just chilling and enjoying the day. Happy birthday to you. Amazing. So lots of love coming in the chat too. Lots of love for K Bean. We love K Bean. K Bean's amazing. We got to hang, K Bean and I, over when we were in Vegas, and it was just a ton of fun. K Bean, happy birthday. Really, really happy. All right, so what's going on? We got some comments Coming in the house, my friends. Thank you for sending these in. Let's see what you say about all of this and more. Here's one. Yeah, what's this guy's name? Liam Neeson? Is that him? Nothing to see here. Please dispense. Some of the Gavin Newsom memes were great. He's like doing selfies and everything's burning behind him. He's like, yeah, doing selfies. Some great memes out there. Hey, what's up, John McGarvey? John McGarvey, great to see you. John McGarvey in the house. We got Chubby. Thank you, John. Chubby says, they're waving flags from other countries while attacking federal law enforcement and federal buildings. Sounds like an invasion and an act of war to me, especially if they're planting flags of foreign countries in our country. Hey, Knox Bierman. Hey, happy Monday, all. Anyone who has been to Western Union on a payday knows how huge the remittance business is. Yeah, so Knox is also in Texas. Like if you're in a border state, you're familiar with a lot of these issues. Like I've kind of heard of Aztlan on and off my whole life. Oh, now it's coming, right? Every time there's protests, oh, it's coming. It's part of the invasion. Now it's coming. Then you start to see violence, start to see the flags coming out. And, even the American Revolution wasn't like a year or like 2 years. It was like, like 20 years is how some historians will frame it. Like it started, 20 years before or 10 years before you even think it started and lasted another 10 years, after the final battle. So like these things don't happen overnight. It's usually a culmination of things. And I think the idea here is if this spreads and percolates, if you have it act as a contagion, go from LA to some of the other big cities, it might reach a point where it is unmanageable because you invaded your country with, 20 million foreign enemy combatants, which is not good. So thank you, Knox. Yeah, we've seen it a lot. I've seen it my whole life. It's like, how much money in Arizona? It's like, how much money? Gosh, it's a lot. Bodhi, Aztlan is the mythical place of the origin of the Aztecs. Yeah, and look that word up too. Nobody likes to talk about those words. Aztlan or the Reconquista. You're a conspiracy theorist, you're racist, you're bigoted. They're not talking about demographic replacements or anything. Yes, they are. It's in their writings. Even it's on Wikipedia for crying out loud. They didn't have to dig into it. ELZ, remember, we were all British in 1776 and we kicked them out. And that's a great point. Yeah. And we're not all Mexican or whatever another one of the 100 countries that we've been invaded from are. Hey, Lil Kim Jong-un. This is not a racist voice that I'm going to do. I'm just going to read Lil Kim Jong-un's message as it sounds. And it's not racist at all. And if any North Koreans are offended, send me an email. Hello, America. Gavin number 10. Womp. We know have problem in glorious best Korea because disrespect our flag or people. Straight to gulag for foreign invaders. Man, I totally agree with that, little Kim Jong-un. That's an astute observation there. Says undocumented, mostly peaceful aliens. There's Gavin Newsom. It's a bird on my head. We love illegals. So, Hero America, great to see you, little Kim Jong. Thanks for stopping by. Hey, little Kim Jong-un is here. Says, hey, the coexist people are now burning stuff again. That's a good one. It's true. They are. Just be peaceful. Lighting this Molotov cocktail. Hold on a second. Huh! Lil Kim Jong. Bush send Marines at Rodney King riots. Bush number 1. Back then, yeah, remember that? Remember that time? June 1992, Bush sent in some people over there for Rodney King. Here's another one from Lil Kim Jong-un. So La Raza's out there. La Raza says, Mexican pride. Make America Mexico again. And says, F you people. Viva Mexico. So then ICE comes and says, okay, buddy, go back to Mexico. Since you love Mexico so much and take your flag with you. OMG, no, it's unfair to Mexico. No, that was right. Racism. Dictator. Thank you for that. Yeah, from Lil Kim Jong-un. Says, call me crazy, but going out to destroy an American city, homes, and businesses while carrying foreign flag kind of seems like an act of war. It does, doesn't it? Yeah, it feels like an insurrection. Yeah. Hey, here's one. Lil Kim Jong-un says, enemy combatants on American soil displaying the colors of a foreign nation during a mass invasion disqualifies you from immigrant status and correctly labels you as an enemy combatant, and you should be treated as such. What's up? Lil Kim Jong-un said, if Mexico's so sacred that you're willing to burn our flag in its name, then the only tears being shed, being sent back home, should be tears of joy. Oh yeah, no, I'll be very joyous when we're down 20 million illegals. Lil Kim Jong-un says no one loves Mexico like the people who refuse to live there do. Yeah. They love their culture, they love their identity, they love their country. They're, you know, it's so sacred and all the things. When they leave immediately to the tune of tens of millions to our country. Yeah, got it. Make it make sense. Lil Kim Jong-un says, if you're riding in LA and you see a guy that looks like your childhood orthodontist wearing a flak jacket, immediately drop the brick and walk away. Just trust me on that one. Yeah, that dude, just let him do his thing. You don't want to mess around. Jeffrey Adams, at what point does throwing a rock at your head or throwing a Molotov cocktail at you rise to deadly force and warrant police from using their weapons in self-defense? Yeah, it's a great question, Jeffrey Adams. And like, this is where people are starting, you get nervous about this. Like, you have a situation that pops off and something happens and some young Hispanic Latina girl who's 12 gets eliminated by something that, some act, and you go, oh, Trump, impeach him, and all the things. Is this worth it, America? Is this worth it? Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm not saying that that's worth it, but it's like, we have to enforce the law. So they're trying, I think, to instigate a situation that causes an overreaction, and then they'll exploit that overreaction. So, both sides hopefully are keeping their heads about them, and the illegals just agree to vacate the premises. Chat with me. Even if the Insurrection Act is invoked, are those arrested then given military trials? What would be needed as far as the process for military tribunals? Not encouraging, just trying to understand. It's a great question. Yeah, I don't think so. I think like if you just arrested, I don't know why you'd want to process them through the military per se. You just kind of arrest them and hand them over to local law enforcement and prosecute them locally. But I don't know, like, what's the precedent? Did George Bush's people prosecute anybody? Where did they get prosecuted if that happened? But, like, since they're civilians, I think that you'd probably just try them in civilian courts and just enforce the civilian laws. You're just using different officers to do it, would be my guess. But I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe there's some other process for it. Lil Kim Jong-un says Pacific Palisade people who lost their homes watching J7 protesters light Los Angeles on fire. That guy. And the news simultaneously calling it, fiery but mostly peaceful and fun. They're just having fun watching cars burn. Not that guy's. Hey, Lil Kim Jong-un says, really? Right in front of my ice machine? Got it. My ice machine. Yeah, got it. Thank you for that, Lil Kim Jong-un. Hey, Jeffrey Adam. Sorry for the code. It wouldn't let me send. I think we picked it up, Jeffrey Adam. Yeah, you were saying deadly force. We picked it up. It wouldn't let you say that word? Thank you, Jeffrey, for the double dono and the clarification. Hey, Rob on Rumble says, import the third world, you become the third world. Build a wall separating California from the U.S. I can understand that, but I want California back. It should be a big, beautiful red state, like Reagan had. And it's been seized from us, from America. It's time to reclaim it. Lil Kim Jong-un. Same people who cheered on the FBI hunting grandma for trespassing at the Capitol are the same ones cheering on illegal rioting because Homeland is trying to remove people who harm Americans and who broke the law and who are here illegally. Yeah, and not so much sympathy from the media on this one when it's their side torching things. Our side didn't even do that. Hey, Daily Curmudgeon. Suing John Menard and Menard's home improvement, false arrest, coercion, and conspiracy against rights, says Daily Curmudgeon. Details on my channel. Ooh, sounds juicy, Daily Curmudgeon. Suing someone? That's over at Daily Curmudgeon. Keep up the great content. Hey, Lil Kim Jong-un says Democrats are screeching about saying, but what about January 6th? You mean the same January 6th where the FBI spent months arresting people and the DOJ prosecuting people and there were no mass riots or cities and people trying to stop the FBI from doing their jobs? You mean that January 6th? Yeah, that January 6th, it was like 5 hours. You were back that same night. Nobody was torching cars, lighting buildings on fire. And a large portion of the people who were charged were tapped on the shoulder and invited in. We watched it on video here many times. So, yeah, it's not exactly the same thing. And what's up? Lil Kim Jong-un sent this one in. Get Kyle Rittenhouse to L.A. There's a GoFundMe. Get Kyle Rittenhouse to L.A. to go clean up the streets. Funny one. Lil Kim Jong-un. Here's Democrat Lois from Family Guy having withdrawal anxieties looking at that pile of bricks. I have to throw that brick. 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 Trump's a dictator. Trump's a dictator. Don Burrell. The guy on the motorcycle flying the Mexican flag is a Venezuelan whose cell phone was geofenced to be residing in a $2.5 million home. Sounds about right. Thank you, Don. Wonder if he'll be arrested and charged with crimes, if he committed any crimes that day. Former LEO, what is needed are anti-terrorist forces to suppress deadly attacks. If they can see a Molotov cocktail, then they can take action. Tony Hay Munkett says, if you get a chance, you should watch the latest Wolf in Finance. It's about the second assassination attempt. He found a bunch of stuff. It blew my mind. Shout out to Wolf in Finance, my friend. Sounds like a good one. Tony Hay Munkett. Great channel right next door. Check it out. Keith Soderbeck. What's up, Keith? Hey, welcome aboard, Keith. Thanks for being a member. We had a great member stream this morning. Welcome to all of our new members. Hey, Rob is here. If they put these fungus spores on crops on the farmland China purchased near military bases, that's a lot of wind and airports. Spores spread with the wind and on jets and planes. Oh, yeah, you're probably talking about that Fusarium germanium case that we talked about, where that Chinese woman, I think another one of them got indicted too, was smuggling foreign fungi, very bad fungi, into our country from China. And they were doing experiments on it in the University of Michigan in Detroit and brought it in through customs, stuffed in a sock, stuffed in tissue paper so that customs wouldn't find it. Yeah, King of Biltong, what's up? Have you gotten your Biltong yet? Check out BiltongUSA.com. He's got a promo code for our fam here, Robert, 10% off from Biltong USA, King of Biltong. Cindy DeTore, what's up, Cindy? Thank you, Cindy, for being here and for being a membo and supporting our work. You're amazing. Doan, Newsom jerked back from his foray into centrism. Yeah, he's trying to turn this into something meaningful for him because he's got nothing else he can talk about. Sheila Pooh, Newscum is an oily, sleazy liar. That's true. Yeah, he is pretty oily too. Sergeant GPS says, due to the increased threats to federal law enforcement officers and federal buildings, 700 active duty U.S. Marines from Camp Pendleton are being deployed to L.A. to restore order. We have an obligation to defend federal law enforcement officers, even if Gavin Newsom will not. Thank you, Sergeant. Great to see you, Sergeant. Thanks for stopping by the astronomy stream last night. Rob, Biden facilitated them in. Trump is facilitating them out. From Rob. Hey, Felix De La Cruz. What's up, Felix De La Cruz? Says, you need to go to this website. Yeah, we checked this one out this morning. It's called nokings.org. They got a bunch of protests lined up. It's next weekend, I think, on the 14th. So it shows when and where the next violent protests will be coming. We looked at it. I don't think it's going to, I think it's kind of like they set up registration forms in I can't imagine it's going to be that big. We looked it up. Like they're going to be protesting in Prescott, Arizona. I'm like, what? They're going to be protesting Trump here? Like how many people are going to show up to that? So you can check it out, nokings.org. Next weekend, I think it's the 14th, Father's Day weekend. They don't want to honor their fathers. They'd rather go out there and protest. Steel Manning, what's up? There is no riot in Ba Sing Se. Watch the movie Avatar. I've seen it. It's a good one, yeah. Watch Avatar. Thank you, Steel Manning. This one from Felix De La Cruz. These Reconquistas will have to fight the Muslims because Muslims are on the same mission. Yeah, I think that's probably true. And there's probably a bunch of different efforts in America to make America less American. A lot of people benefit if America is not America anymore, but not Americans. Mock Schnell, La Raza has been stating this since the 80s. Go back and look what Edward James Olmos said back then. He used his bully pulpit as a famous actor in that California and the Southwest be taken back. Yeah, no doubt. It's been going on probably for 175 years or so, give or take. Thank you, Mock Schnell. And it's manifesting as we're starting to see it bubble up now in the streets. Mock Schnell, thank you. Felix De La Cruz. I wonder if SCOTUS is watching these videos. SCOTUS is responsible for all this BS. Yeah, I mean, if Trump had more AEA powers, then he could be, I think, using those more effectively. A lot of that has been stalled by SCOTUS. Would be nice if they let the executive branch do its job. Wonder if they'll get a response in 14 hours to any of this. No. Alana Noble. I wrote to Newsom on his website asking him to back ICE and let the LA police support them. Do you think he will? No, I don't. It's a nice effort, Alana. I think that Gavin is pretty much beholden to that class, and most of the Democratic Party appears to be. They can't distance themselves from them because they're invested in them. And what else are they going to do? Stacey Milliken says, call me dramatic, but when the sky is orange and the police have more armor than Iron Man, I stopped calling it mostly peaceful. It's giving apocalypse. Yeah, it's an insurrection. That's exactly right. I don't think it's dramatic at all. And it's been happening for days, and we're going to see it probably continue to happen until it's put down. Knox Bierman, I try to explain to my very blue, no matter who, Tucson friends that these are not our old friends and neighbors whom we AZ peeps always worked and lived with sans issues. Yeah, and that's another thing too. It's like people are living in a bygone era. It's like, okay, you know some people who came here 20 years ago and they work, you work with them or whatever. It's not this new generation. It's not this last 4 years of invasion. It's an entirely different hostile force. Tucson friends don't get it. Tucson super blue, it's wild. Whom we Arizona peeps always worked and lived with sans issues. These are real criminals who traffic humans. They do not want to hear it. The old ways run deep for white liberals, right? They just can't realize, oh, it's different. Yeah. Mock Schnell, thank you, Mock Schnell. Bringing in 20 new membos. Mock Schnell, you rock. William Justice is here. Bill Watkins, what's up, that girl? Jason Finch, we got Kyle Reese, Devin McLevy, Tommaso Patrich, what's up, Chase Junkie, Tony B23, Cecil De La Rosa, Eagle 80, Battle Cam, we got Clinton Griffin, Carlos Landetta, Brian Atkins, Dirt Cheap, what's up? I am Divine Creation, Melanie Marino, Maureen Maui, and Amanda. Gifted membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for doing that. We appreciate you, my man. RP Game says, the Mexican government is basically declaring war on the U.S. Yeah, I hope we tax those remittances massively. Knox says, oh, and Mexico also taxes remittances too. Yeah, they don't let you protest down there, but they can send their people up here to protest. And if we tax remittances, they're going to mobilize. Got it. Sandy says, this guy has been doxing ICE and posting their locations. He got doxed and cried like a baby, begging for forgiveness and asking for people to stay away from his family. 2024, he pled no contest to stalking. FAFO. Yeah, of course. That guy has definitely stepped in it. And he was doxing a bunch of people and sharing the ICE agents' names. And he kind of walked a lot of that back, deleted it. I think he's going to be charged with a crime for that. I think I read that there was an arrest warrant there. So we'll hang on that one. Felix de la Cruz says, illegal socialist burro carne con tortilla and Manteca something says, Viense Scheinbaum, take them back to your country, lady. Says Scheinbaum, why are some of your countrymen wearing Palestinian keffiyehs? Illegal alien lives matter? Is that what it is? BS. Knox says it's Guatemala. Guatemala is the blue one. I couldn't tell. It was maybe trans Mexicans or something, That's what I was thinking. But it's Guatemala, which, all right, anyways. Ken L., if I make a left turn in the right turn only lane, is that an undocumented turn? It's probably going to be documented depending on what you crash into. But if you admit you are illegal, then you documented yourself as an illegal alien. From Ken L. Yeah, I think that's right. That congresswoman, that state senator, state representative did. Absolutely. Art Melknikov. What's up, Art? Thank you, Art, for becoming a membo. Grab the members only stream from this morning and check out the members only morning stream tomorrow morning when we go live. Chat with me. Minnesota representative who admitted she was an illegal alien also voted and donated to ACT, both of which is illegal. Yeah, that's my question. It's did she just admit that openly, or is she saying her parents were illegal, and so therefore She's illegal because birthright citizen. I don't know her background. Doesn't apply to her. Felix de la Cruz. Okay, wow. Illegal aliens versus Muslims. And who will conquer the USA? First through banging like rabbits to make baby. Oh, gosh. Who will win? I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, babies need to be made. Alana Noble says Mexico president is upset that Trump stopped the drug trade they brought through the U.S. southern border. Can you imagine illegally crossing into another country's border? No. Like, no other country tolerates it. Every other country's like, no, you get deported immediately. Get out. We don't even play with you. But the United States, we do, because like we have to be like good people, saviors of the world. Give me a break. Stacey Milliken, criminals with fan clubs, welcome to the crime circus. Well, the Democratic Party seems like they're representing the illegal alien class, which is by definition illegal. Thank you, Stacey. Felix de la Cruz, Mayor Karen is dumb. That's a true statement. Doan Burrill, Scheinbaum grudgingly working her cartel shine box from Doan. Yeah, is that, you think she's going that way? We got a war game. We got a war game, a Mexican invasion. It's like if Mexico has an incursion, what are they going to take? Like San Diego's probably at risk. Tucson's probably gone. Until the U.S. forces come back. And then if that happens, we're just going to march all the way down to Panama. Cindy DeTore, Trump's keeping oath. All enemies, foreign and domestic. Yeah, I'm ready to go. It's time to take care of business. Chat with me. Minnesota's representative admitting that she's an illegal alien has caused some in the legislature to flip votes when voting on health care for illegals. They voted not to fund it. So that backfired on her, huh? Serrano Guardia says, I had local protesters on an interstate overpass with an 86-47 side. I may or may not have tipped the FBI off and local law enforcement. Well, good for you. Yeah, good for you, Serrano Guardias. As they say, see something, say something, and the FBI can handle it. Felix de la Cruz, redeploy all military assets from Europe to the U.S., Mexico, and U.S.-Canadian border and close bases in Europe and leave NATO. And Mexico can deal with the entire weight of the U.S. military down there at the border. DC Metro. Great to see you, DC Metro. Thank you for the nice dono. No comment on that, but we appreciate you. We got Donas here. Says Van Hollen said this. Kilmar's return is a win for the Constitution. What a loser. Yeah, and Don, somebody else, I think you may have been there this morning when somebody else was saying that, I think it was Pramila Jayapal, who said he was a lawful permanent resident or something like that, Kilmar too. So they just make it up. And Kilmar's return is a win for the Constitution. What are you talking about? He was lawfully deported in the first place. Now he's getting prosecuted. There's a real question too about this with his lawyers. Like, did his lawyers just commit malpractice by getting him returned to the United States and now possibly imprisoned for 90 years? It's like, gosh, thanks ACLU. You fought so hard to get me back that I got charged with crimes and now I'm facing 90 years minimum. If they wanted to stack those crimes against me, it's like, oh, great job. So you'll never get out now. Great job, ACLU. All for their national injunction, because they never cared about Kilmar or his case or due process at all. They just cared about their national injunction. Hey, Felix de la Cruz, cut ties with all NATO countries that have stabbed the USA in the back with Ukraine. Leave them to their own vices. They are being taken over by Islam and they are no longer Europe. That is a shadow caliphate. Rick D says, it's starting again and they're planning for more all across the country. This is getting beyond bad, right? It's like a contagion. If they can't shut it down, then it will continue. And yeah, it sounds like there's more protests that are happening. Looks like C-SPAN has some of it. Rick D, thank you. Spud says, everybody wish Clipper Extraordinaris K Bean a happy, happy birthday. Happy birthday to K Bean, no doubt about that. And John says, yeah, happy birthday to the greatest not gay mod on the internet. Yeah, because the mods are gay, I think, in a lot of locations. John was a mod, kind of. John's in between modding. John goes both ways when it comes to modding. Sometimes you help, anyways. We love John. Thank you, John. Happy birthday to the not gay mod K Bean. Happy birthday, K Bean. Great to have you. Felix de la Cruz. I have no evidence other than the photo and video we have seen. I believe Biden died of cancer some time ago in the first or early second year of his term. What is your opinion? I think Joe's probably alive. I do have questions about the body double because there's some of those where he's like really tall. That doesn't make any, I'm like, who the hell is that dude walking? He's like giant. So I think Joe Biden's probably still alive, but I don't think, like, not in the brain. Like, he's probably physically alive, but his brain's been gone for a while. Sergeant, what's up, Sergeant? Shared this one. Hey, happy birthday, K-Bean. Happy birthday to you. That's one of my favorite Trump gifts. I'm looking at you. Yeah, you. Happy birthday. Hey, Deluxe Knight. Happy blessed birthday, K-Bean. You were awesome with the info. Have a great day. More love from our farmer, Deluxe Knight, coming over to K-Bean. Thank you, Deluxe Knight. Tobo says, somebody should ask Newsom what crime he has committed. Why do no reporters ask the right questions? To Newsom? Well, I think because they're usually glad-handing him, kind of rubbing his shoulders. You're doing a great job against Trump. We love you. Thank you, Tobo. Mr. Magic Man writes, I hope Kilmar is found innocent so he can immediately be deported back to CCOT and imprisoned there. Due process and boom. From Mr. Magic Man. Yeah, well, both could happen. You could have both. He could be convicted here, housed for 90 years, and then sent back to CCOT. So that would be good too. Sonora Guardias, Serrano Guardias. 2 months as a membo. First month's the hardest. Gets easier from there. The real life battle Los Angeles is not as exciting. Yeah. Wasn't Battle Los Angeles the aliens or something? I mean, the space aliens. Battle Los Angeles right now also involves aliens. But they're definitely not as smart or capable. Rob, what's up? We took the Gulf of America. Let's take Mexico as the panhandle of Texas. Yeah, well, they better comply, right? Otherwise, we might have another, march down to Panama. Felix de la Cruz, Rob, click this link and share it. No, we're not going to click it, but thank you for suggesting it. It is the plans of more immigration protest. I hope Holman has this site on his radar. That's what it looks like. Thanks for the link. What's up, David D? Joe's fault. They gather in Colombia, go through the Darien Gap into Panama, then they ride on top of a freight train 3 or 4 days in northern Mexico. Some it takes for months, and some and deadly. Yeah. Yeah, and they've got entire manuals and operations and all sorts of guides that help facilitate that, including even maybe buses and things, right? Funneling people up to the quarter, to the United States. What's this? Pinochet's helicopter tours says nobody plans for the roof Koreans who all served and carried their famous M1As when they did. Yeah, the roof Koreans, man. Yeah, we've seen more of those. Roof Koreans you don't want to play around with, which is why we're very respectful to little Kim Jong-un when he comes by our channel. Don't play with those guys. Sandy, Rob, are you really on board with if they spit, we hit? I don't like the idea. Arrest them, but I don't think the military should be retaliating like that. Too many times of that and public support could fall. So do you mean like hit them back? So I wasn't really like thinking about it like that. Like if they spit, they hit. Like I don't think we should be seeing the police just like beating people. But if somebody spits on you, that's assault, and that person should be arrested. And they should arrest that person like right there. Like if you did that to a cop, you did that to anybody, you go spit on a cop, they spit on Ed Martin, she got arrested. So if you're out there and somebody's spitting on you, yeah, that person should be arrested. And if you have to push people back and get violent to go get that person, then you should get that person because they broke the law. And it should be aggressive enforcement for all of those crimes, as long as you can provide evidence that there's probable cause that a crime was committed. Now, you might say, look, like, if they're all wearing shields and stuff and they're kind of getting spit on and like you can't like deal with, like who is it or whatever, then maybe it doesn't justify like, a total deluge to just cause damage, right? But if somebody is spitting on you and that's actionable, they should be arrested and charged and prosecuted and aggressively, like just go get them, arrest, right? Yeah. Now, again, there's a lot of them, right? So there's a lot of people. So if it's just like spitting and like you say, okay, now we're just going to bring in the tanks and start shooting people or something, that's not what I think is appropriate, because it is, it is just spitting. And I agree with you. I think this is the fine line, the predicament. Like, they want something bad to happen. They want somebody on Team America to do something very bad so they can use that as kindling to, exacerbate a much bigger counter revolution or protest. But yeah, spitting is a crime. That's assault. So if they're assaulting people, they should be prosecuted accordingly. No one's above the law. But I understand your point, Sandy, and I appreciate you don't want to be too heavy-handed, because then you will lose support. Tobo, it's going to be very difficult to get an LA jury to convict any of the insurrectionists. That's probably true. They love it. Which is why I think you want to just go in and round up as many illegals as humanly possible and process them through the immigration system, take it federal, and do what you can to take it out of LA's hands, because the city has become beholden to this ongoing cycle of criminality, and it's harming our country, so we can't allow it. Felix de la Cruz, James Brown Waters was making her presence known for sound bites where California National Guard deployed, but it didn't hit. It would have been better if she just sang, "Get on up." James Brown Waters. Is that Maxine Waters' friend or something? Pinochet's helicopter tour says, only people under the UCMJ are prosecuted under the UCMJ. Enemy combatants get tribunals. Civilians are neither. Well, that's a great point. But what would you call an illegal alien who's waving a flag around? Would you call them an enemy combatant, or would you call them that's the thing. Is, like, if you arrested that person, you'd probably just process them, and they're illegal. Probably just process them through. If you charge them with a crime, process them through the Article 3 courts. If you don't want to do that and you declare them that they're enemy combatants, maybe give them military tribunals faster. And you'd have to classify the aliens as enemy combatants, right? So you could shove them under there. But maybe that's the strategy. Civilians are neither. Thank you for that, Pinochet. What's up, Brian Bishop? J6 protesters equals insurrection. The J7 protesters, the June 7th protesters, the LA rioters are peaceful. What's the difference? Why did J6ers get hunted, yet nothing is happening to the Angelinos yet? Well, because they're Republicans, and because the FBI and the DOJ are liberal entities that are largely corrupt. Sharpie Guy. Hey, Robin watchers, it's the shin cancer season, so put on the sun protection, especially the little ones, y'all. On Friday, I had a good half of my right ear removed from squamous carcinoma that had made its way through the cartilage. On the humorous side, I'm looking like an elf, but the sun doesn't joke. Blessings, y'all. Yeah, shout out, Sharpie Guy. I'm sorry to hear that. I have a good friend of mine, actually in our men's group, who's going through stuff like that. He's always getting some cut off. It's like, ugh. So, man, it's a horrible thing. So take care of your skin, wear your hats, put on your sunscreen if you believe in that. There's a lot of healthier sunscreens out there now these days that don't have all the chems in them. So thank you, Sharpie Guy, for the good reminder on that. Hey, Felix de la Cruz, the Korean shop owners will be on the roofs of their shops for this one. These legal working immigrants don't play. No, they work their whole lives for their businesses. They don't want their stuff to get ransacked by maniac criminals. So yeah, I appreciate that, right? It's your property. You defend it. Cody Ritter, what's up with the president of Mexico calling for protests in the U.S. over the big, beautiful bill, including the tax increase of the money that is sent to Mexico and other countries by migrants? It's a great question, Cody. What is up with that? We played that clip on the stream earlier and got to see her, shaking her hand about that. We're going to mobilize. What does that mean, Claudia? What are you going to do? You're going to mobilize the people already here? You're going to mobilize new people at the border? What's your plan? And the fact that she even says that makes me want to tax remittances 100%. Just to see. Hey, what's up, Tigray? If we go back in history, we are more American. Mexico, from Tigray Hermano. I guess. So you're saying you just reverse the clock and then it's their country or something. Tigray Hermano. Money from Mexico. Remittances to us. Hey, thank you, Tigray Hermano, from sending in some pesos. Sandy says, we appreciate it. Sandy says, hey, Shinebomb, Telling your countrymen to mobilize in our country is a problem. Nice looking Capitol. Be a shame if something happened to it. Yeah, I don't appreciate those comments while she's got all of her illegal aliens waving Mexican flags in our country. I don't appreciate it. G-Men, so glad America has finally found its balls again. Me too, G-Men. It's nice to see it. It's what we voted for. Nice to see it happen. Little Kim Jong-un says, breaking news. Trucks just pulled up to the rioters outside City Hall in LA and dropped off bionic shield masks. They cost $94 on Amazon a piece. Well-coordinated, well-funded riots about to happen. Bodie says the same. I said this before, but I've heard a lot of people say that the next attack will be a 10-7 style attack facilitated through the open border. I bet it's starting. Yeah, there's a lot of, I think, tension in the air about stuff like that. And like, why hasn't it happened yet is kind of the thing. Deluxe Knight, K. Bean and Deluxe Knight Jr. in the Navy shared the day with you. Happy birthday to you and son, who is 24 on this day. Happy birthday to Deluxe Knight Jr. Happy birthday, man. Lots of birthdays. Great birthday to share. Knox Bierman, also happy birthday, courtesy of to K. Bean, courtesy of Knox Bierman. Little Kim Jong-un and G-Men shouting out happy birthdays to K. Bean in the house. Lots of love for K. Bean, obviously. Serrano Guardias. Trump got an infantry unit from 29 Palms. He got the angry Marines from the worst posting in the Corps. Is that, well, that sounds good. That's angry Marines? Sounds great to me. G-Men, yeah, supposedly a protest in my town on 614 on that King's website. Yeah, we looked at it this morning. Let's see how well that works out for him. Yeah, we looked at it this morning, and they're all over the place. Yeah, so we appreciate that. Hey, what's up, Heavy Johnny? I'm sorry I missed the astronomy stream. I never got a notification. I really wanted to join. Dang it, Heavy Johnny. We'll do it again. Yeah, we'll do it again. And we were shouting you out. I do have the recording, so I can share that with you, although your boy didn't know what the hell I was doing. So Heavy Johnny got us this adapter from China and sent it over via Japan, and also sent in some squid and things like that. We had an astronomy stream yesterday, and I didn't realize you needed to see certain things, and I don't have a real good line of sight to Polaris, so trying to figure that out yesterday. I think I'll have to find a different location, so it's kind of us. It was kind of a dud stream in terms of results, but we had an awesome time. We got to hang out and stuff like that, and we did miss you, Heavy Johnny. Sorry about that. Maybe I should have sent you a message or something, but we missed you. We'll catch you next time. Thanks again for the stuff you sent over. Really cool. Very fun. Hey, this old guy says, one riot, one ranger. The phrase was coined in 1896 by Ranger Captain William Bill McDonald in Dallas, where he had been sent to prevent the illegal heavyweight prize fight between Bob Fitzsimmons and Pete Maher. The story says the mayor met McDonald and asked where the other rangers were. McDonald replied, hell, ain't I enough? There's only one prize fight. We don't need the Marines. Just send a Texas Ranger to LA. Shout out to our Texas Rangers out there. And all the Rangers out there from this old guy. One riot, one Ranger. Just go take care of this, will you? Ranger? Yeah, I'll take care of it. Felix de la Cruz. LA, the city of fallen angels. The Nephilim are back, from Felix de la Cruz, talking about LA. Sandy says, if Trump is forced to invoke the Insurrection Act, he will have authority to institute field commissions to process these insurrectionists. Here we go. They couldn't and wouldn't go through normal courts until the invasion was. Dicta in N Ex Parte Milligan lays out the procedure. Okay, so like dicta, so it's like not as binding, but still some good instructions there in that case. Ex Parte Milligan. Interesting, Sandy. Yeah, I'm hopeful we learn a lot more about it. Can't wait to learn about it. Oh, what's Trump doing? How do these processes work? Oh, great. We got all these commissions stand up. We're processing 10,000 illegals a day. This is great. Hey, former LEO. Quick funny story. During my oral interview in 1970 for the San Francisco Police Department, I was asked how I would respond if I were on the riot skirmish line back in the 70s, and someone spit in my face. Now, in trying to be politically correct, my response was, since the police academy is 9 weeks long, I would be instructed in the proper response. Hilarious. Yeah. I'll do whatever you tell me and train me to do. Nice answer. That's a very lawyerly answer. Almost at once, an old police captain got to his feet all red-faced and said, I'll tell you what you do. You knock them on their butt. So I figured that I blew the interview by trying to be PC. Well, that's kind of how I feel about it. Yeah, somebody spits in your face, that's an assault, man. Cops, if you spit on a cop, see how that works out for you. You'll get beaten and you'll get arrested. So why should they get some other benefits? Heavy Johnny. Hey, I think I may have a few tips for getting that thing set up. I have to watch a recording to see what shenanigans you guys were up to. Yeah, I'll post it. It was me. Yeah, it was pretty rough. And I watched videos. Like, I was kind of prepared for it. Like, I watched them. I'm like, okay, this is how it works. Like, I'll just go in, click these buttons on the app, just kind of point it over here. The thing, like, the whole thing's a smart telescope. It's smart. I'm smart. So we should figure this out. I'm not that smart. So, Sherry J, I'm joining to be a membo for my birthday next week. Woo! Sherry J, that's going to be a great birthday gift. We're going to be excited to have you. And we'll be welcoming you in with birthday love and extravaganza. Thank you, Sherry. Hey, Deluxe Night. If people really started to genetic test people from Mexico, and you actually research Mexico, true history, the people would actually have more in common with Americans than they realize. Yeah, controlled by Spain, France, and German immigrants after World War II, and a couple more from European countries. Yeah, I think that's right, actually. I think that, the Spanish were in charge. I mean, the Mexican independence was like in 1812 or something. And then we fought over that land for a little bit. It's like, we've been here for thousands of years. You're like, your country's like 200 years old. It's like younger than we are. So you lost that land. So stop claiming it. Okay, Mexico's like a baby compared to other nations like Germany, France, and other nations. And it's younger than America. And that's our land. So get out. So thank you, Deluxe Night, for that one. And for sharing that one in here. My friends, what a beautiful stream it has been today. And I think we're still probably not streaming on X right now because our stream key is not working over there for whatever reason that is. But, all right, so we got no comments over on X. A couple more came in. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to do a short after party today. So if you're a membo on YouTube, stick around. We'll hit the refresh. We'll come back. We'll do an after party with YouTube membos and locals membos and debrief, wrap it up. See what you guys thought about the show, and take some final comments. Former says, I actually do remember how I responded. I said no statute of limitations. For the spitting? From Former. Did you get the job, hopefully? Concert Chick. Looked up the protest in my town for Saturday. It is nowhere near the courthouse or the park or the civic center. The location is listed at a Zaxby's. Yeah, if you go there, No Kings, you'll see exactly a ton of stuff. I looked it up in Prescott and actually signed up for the one in Prescott with monitoring email just so I can see what they're up to. But I will not actually be here. We're going to be doing Father's Day stuff on that weekend. So I don't know how many people are going to show up. But Prescott's a very red county. So there might be a handful of people there. But check it out. NoKings.org, I think, is the website. Heavy Johnny, I think the wedge needs to face the south, so the Sea Star leans north. Also, it doesn't guide well from what I see online, so cutting the exposure time down to about 10 seconds will help with guiding. I remember seeing that setting, Heavy Johnny. Yeah, and I was trying to follow the instructions on the app, and then the app will actually tell you. So I move the Sea Star down. It's like, okay, 35 degrees. That's where you want it. Then I say find polar deviation. Does its thing, and then the angles were all wrong again. Then I got different angles, like, okay, move it this way and do that. I'm like, the hell, I move it, and I don't know what I'm doing. So I got to figure it out. But we were also on this incline because we had to go to the backyard because we didn't have a line of sight in the front yard. It's kind of a mess. So yeah, and I thought I had better view of the North Star from the front yard, but apparently we don't. So working on it. All right, so my friends, it has been just an absolutely beautiful and incredible stream. And so we're going to pause here for the evening. I think we're going to have some more riots tonight brewing. Looks like law enforcement is out there. More Mexican flags out there. So we'll see what's happening. Of course, members, stick around. We're going to do an after party and debrief for a little bit. Otherwise, members, we'll be back in the morning again. So 9 a.m. Pacific. 12 noon Eastern for the members only stream in the morning. We'll catch the latest, and then we'll come back tomorrow night to get into it again. Before we wrap it up, we want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. Shout out to John, to Donut Mind Me, the very happy birthday gal of the day, K Bean in the house, modding the fort down for us. Thank you, K Bean, and very happy birthday to you. Shout out to Carrie B. We got Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger over on Rumble helping us out over there. Thank you, fellas, and everybody watching on Rumble. We also want to thank G-Gum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda, and everybody who helps make this show oh so beautiful and orderly. We're grateful for you, and thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for being a part of the Watcher fam. Thanks for inviting a friend or family member to come over here to join us when we come back tomorrow, because we will be back here tomorrow. And we're going to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chatting line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see